Whatever the Wednesday was.
So what brought you to the planning?
We're just, Jesse and Isaac drove
somebody
down and then the rest flew down on Saturday.
Okay.
That was a long time ago now.
Isaac,
8 years
Daryl
ago.
and Isaac.
You were voluntold.
Right.
All right, folks.
Oh, yeah, no, I didn't invent
It
it.
is
Somebody-
my pleasure to call to order the Wednesday, May 6th meeting of the Freeport Planning Board. Just a minute or two after 6. It's raining. I left my keys in the wrong car. I rode my bike here. It's going to be okay. I'm a little wet. Item number 1 is information exchange. Kyle, you want to give us an update on items reviewed by the Freeport PRB?
Yeah, so at our April 15th PRB meeting, decently busy agenda. So we had a 12-unit subdivision approved on Elm Street. So it's like, it was approved as 6 duplexes. So we'll wait and see.
Is that is that an empty property?
It had a single-family home on it, which I think was taken down in the
Got
past
it.
couple years or something.
Nice.
Yep.
It's 6 duplexes?
6 duplexes, so
Nice.
it's kind of an access drive that splits the middle of the property with 3 duplexes on either side facing inward. So, yeah, I mean, it's a decent infill project for that kind of street, so. Then we had a concept plan by Maine Golf for their new clubhouse and parking, which comes after, they'd come before the planning board for the zoning change to reduce the parking requirement, so that should help out there. So I think they'll come back for their full application in maybe a couple months. I think they're working with DEP on the site law permit. Then we had another conceptual subdivision plan for an 8-lot, single-family subdivision off Beach Hill Road. So I think that might come back in June or sometime around there for their next review. I think that site was previously approved several years ago for like a 20-something lot subdivision that was just never built. So it's good to see something new proposed there. And then we had a couple design review certificates approved. One for a new sign for a new business going into the old Brown Goldsmith building. And then another for a carport garage enclosure for a single-family home on Bow Street, which not a massive project, but it's kind of topical for what we're talking about tonight, and just recognizing that would probably be one of those things that under this iteration of design review that we're looking at would probably be something that staff could review and would not have had to go to the board. So, but yeah, both of those went through no problem. That's it for PRB. Last night at council, there were a couple zoning text amendments approved. One, the C1, C3 changes that have been coming to the board. What was that?
It's done now.
Yeah, it's all done. So that's good. It's really the first thing that we started working on post-comp plan. So there wasn't a ton of conversation, which I take to mean that it's just widely supported and agreed that those are good changes. And then the drive-up restaurant applicant-driven request was also approved. I do kind of want to follow up on that. So council was, I think, very supportive of that change for that specific project, but they did flag that I think they wanted at least some members of council to have kind of ongoing discussion or some follow-up discussion about whether there should be any additional standards for drive-up restaurants in the C1 to limit the possibility that you could have a bunch go into the corridor all at once. So the council did bring up the idea of having a joint workshop with the planning board towards the end of June. It would be June 23rd. So if people could let me know if they would be available for that. And I think a backup date would be June 30th. So I can send an email out tomorrow, or if people know now, you can let me know as well.
Pretty sure it's no problem for me.
fine for me.
Yeah, so we don't have all the details on that conversation yet, since we just kind of talked about it last night, but I think it would just be a conversation on that topic generally.
So they approved it, but
That would be
like,
it.
Yeah, so they approved the change that
Without
came before the
conditions.
board. Yeah, no conditions, no changes. So right now,
But they're wondering whether we shouldn't reinstitute some restriction or
Yeah.
limit, or,
yeah, there were, I mean, basically, it was the same concerns that came up at the planning board meeting, I think, but where the board just approved it as is and felt, well, if we start seeing a few pop up, we can always revisit it. Council, I think some council members highlighted, well, maybe we should just do something in advance. But also at the same time, wanted to approve it so the specific project could go through.
Note that it's not on Route 1.
right. I think that was one of the
I
ideas.
think that is unbelievably critical, because if it happened again and it wasn't on Route 1, but anyway, we can have the
Yeah,
workshop.
so that's the whole point.
One of the ideas that I think the council floated is like, right through access can only be on collector streets or something.
Yeah, that's right.
Yep. So that'll be, I think, kind of,
Wouldn't hurt this applicant even if it had been.
Right, and I think it's unlikely to be a string of it, but there could easily be 2 more. 5 o'clock?
I don't know what time yet. I assume it would be
Before
6.
there.
Well, I don't think there is a,
Oh, so then it would be
council's
6.
first
Okay.
and third, right? Yeah, it'd be at 6.
I just would have a problem if it's earlier than 5.
Yep. Okay, I'll send out a confirmation email just so people can respond, but it seems like the 23rd works for most people then. That's it for staff update.
Okay.
I have one question about staff updates, which is that the sort of 3-month plan that you guys wrote out, I mean, we're only seeing a part of that, but do you feel like that's being perpetrated across the, is that being followed?
Yep. I mean, we already had a little bit of a change to that immediately after
Well,
that
presumably
happened.
it's a living document.
Because,
but,
yeah, because of the, we build in, like, the next thing we were going to work on post C1, C3 really was the state housing law changes and doing
Oh, but then
updates
they
around
get-
that, but now we have an extra year on that. So there's going to be, I think, a small tweak and some flexibility there. But yeah, in general, I think we're kind of on track with what we talked about.
Okay. Item number 2 is a review of the minutes from last month. Mitch, I don't think you were here.
I wasn't here. I did listen in arrears.
And
Got to
Dave
know
wasn't
you a
here
little
either, but
bit that
Dave's
way.
not here.
I
Oh,
saw
no, he
you
was
on
here.
video.
Dave was, sorry, Dave was here. So do we have a quorum?
You do,
We
don't
do,
you?
yeah. Andrew, me, Bonnie, Kari.
Yeah, it's 5 of you.
Right, sorry, Wayne was not here, not Dave.
Wayne was not here either?
Right.
Oh, so you only have
We have
4.
4, but that's still a quorum, yeah. Okay, so does anyone have any corrections or issues or anything with the notes from last time? Motion to approve?
Bonnie's got some.
I do, but
You
I
got
think they're kind of probably silly things, but
I move we approve the minutes.
seconded.
That would be the April 1st,
April 1st, yeah. Second.
2026 planning board meetings.
What's that?
I move we approve the minutes.
And we have
April
a second
1st?
from Kari. Excellent.
Second.
All in favor, or all able to vote and in favor? Great. All right, thanks, as always, to Sharon for
That was a long one.
compiling 12 pages of
Pages.
notes.
Couldn't see anything wrong with them, but there's probably some typos.
Okay. Right, yeah, I think there's a few small things, but like Bonnie said, the gist of it is very much intact, so.
Yeah. It's not anything that changes the meaning of anything.
All right, the meat of this meeting is item number 3, which is a discussion on the design review ordinance update. Obviously, something we've been working on for a very, very long time. But hopefully getting at least closer to the finish
Rounding
line.
the corner, it looks like.
We have at least the first draft with graphics, or at least with some graphics, and some photos. So, yeah, moving the ball down the field just a little bit. And also, we have the updated map in front of us tonight. So, Kyle, is there anything you want to lead off with here, or are you?
Yeah, so I mean, I think we can touch on things, kind of how I laid it out in the staff report. So I just want to, I mean, we largely have gone through the text the last few times we talked about it, and I think landed in a pretty good place there. The only update is, you know, I added a couple things that we talked about last time that were kind of remained untouched in the document. So the first thing in the applicability section on page 4, so previously the document had some standards relating to like site features. So it would talk about having parking to the side or the rear. You know, in our current design review ordinance, you know, one of the findings that
Recording in progress.
one of the things that, you know, we review under the current one is there's a finding for site features where we talk about like walkways or, you know, material changes to any impervious area changes really on the site outside of the building. The ordinance now that we're looking at didn't have a specific trigger when those things were adjusted, so we added some applicability provisions there to say that if you're going to expand impervious areas like parking or walkways or things like that, and it's over a certain square footage amount, you know, you would go to the PRB. If it's under a certain amount, you would go for staff review, similar to like what we're doing with the buildings. And that would allow, you know, some of these standards that we have in the ordinance, you know, if someone was going to just expand a parking lot, it would trigger that for review, even if they weren't proposing any changes to the building.
Kyle, do you
Yeah.
think that other impervious areas needs a definition in this document, or is it defined somewhere else?
I mean, impervious areas is covered in zoning, which this document ties to. I think maybe at the start of the definition section, it says to use the definitions in the zoning ordinance. So I think we'd be covered there, but I mean, we could also add the definition to here. It wouldn't really change too much. But then from there, we also then added a couple additional standards for those site features. So we talked about this last time. So on page 12, so this would be for any non-contributing property. So I added a provision for fences that ties in a little bit to the standard that we already have in the overlay district in regards to, you know, fences not exceeding 6 feet in height. Put in some allowed materials in there as well. And then also a standard for walkways. So I had a note on my paper from last time that someone had brought up the idea that there shouldn't be asphalt walkways allowed. And I think we can talk about that, but there are currently asphalt walkways in the design review district now. I mean, right outside here, we have some. You know, I mean, some of the sidewalks that we have in the downtown are asphalt walkways. So unless we want to create a lot of non-conforming scenarios.
I believe this is a mistake, and that you should allow asphalt.
Just as in,
As in,
Yeah.
I mean, the minute you say if deemed necessary, who deems what necessary? And I deem it necessary because it's cheaper.
Yep.
And if you already have it everywhere, you're gonna, I think it's too bad. I mean, it'd be nice to say nicer things, but I don't think you can do it.
Was it an aesthetic objection to the asphalt?
Yes.
yeah.
And I get it, but
Yeah, I mean, so I was framing it just based off of that, no, if everyone agrees that we should just allow it as a normal material along with the other things, then I think it's fine.
I really don't see
Yeah,
a
is there any other
choice.
feedback on that?
I'd
Or
like
I
other
can just
people's
change
I would
it?
allow it.
Yeah.
I would allow it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it,
I feel the same, yeah.
Years ago, brick wasn't allowed. It was only asphalt and concrete, and they just started putting brick down.
Right.
It was still prohibited, and they just started putting it down. So, you know, and then they decided brick on Main Street, and it could be asphalt off Main Street, like on side streets where it wasn't, but they wanted brick to be on Main Street. So,
yeah, I think it's.
I don't see any harm in it.
Hard to argue against asphalt,
Okay.
at least for accessibility.
it's easy to take care of.
Right.
You know,
Yep.
yeah, I mean, I think there might be a way to, like we have in other places in the document.
Encourage,
yeah,
you know,
gesture at it, or say like
I'm with you
for,
on that. If
for
you can figure it
contributing,
out.
for contributing buildings, I don't know, you get brownie points if you put it, I don't know how to do it, because it's not like we want to add a lot of teeth to it, but I think like natural materials should be encouraged
Yeah.
in sections or something, like
Could-
close
could-
to the building, close to the entrance.
Could you say
But-
something about consistency with the aesthetic of the the nearby I'm don't know, I'm trying to think of
My
something.
problem is consistency gets into who says who.
Yeah, it's
I
very
mean,
subjective.
I think, yeah, I also wonder about, I mean, this is in section 7, right?
We're talking in section 6 right now.
Oh, sorry, my scroll wheel's going the wrong way.
Yeah,
so
I have
keep
a
getting
couple
confused
comments
here.
all along. But
Right, so we're talking section 6, which is new construction, additions, or alterations. So it's, I do wonder a little bit about the organization of, like, site features as a subsection exists in section 6. But then in section 7, it's kind of like split into a couple different,
So anything that section 7 would apply to, section 6 would also apply
also
to.
applies. Okay, fair enough.
Right.
Yeah.
You could have something,
any addition becomes a section 6, right?
yeah, like there could be things that only trigger the standards in section 6, but
Yep.
anything in 7.
I mean, actually, it is one of my notes here, is to say, to make it a little bit clearer, like right up in the heading or just below or something, in section 7, that these are like layered on top of section 6.
Yep.
And don't replace section 6. Because I think, like, for example, I mean, one of the things that I've always sort of felt like if there's one thing that we want to highlight is with windows, it's the exterior, if we're going to say something about divided lights, we should say that there have to be exterior grills that are physical and cast a shadow on that outside of the glass. So one reading of this could say, well, it doesn't say anything about that. And this window section, it just talks about storefront windows, and then there's a picture that shows exterior, shows divided lights, but like, we just want to make it clear that this doesn't supersede the window stuff in section 6. So anyway, we're a little bit
Maybe we may
out of
go,
order
we're gonna
here,
go
but-
out of order, and maybe
Yeah,
easier to just, we sort of understand where we're at, and I wanted to make one general comment, which is just reading this fresh is so much better than what we had before, and it is largely specific, which was the goal from the start.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so I felt like this was gonna be a good thing.
I think it's a pretty good mix of being specific enough, and in the cases where it's not a hard concrete standard, it at least provides options and a range more than what we have now.
That's right.
It was a lot easier to understand than it used to be.
It's a lot easier to understand. You sort of, okay, that's what they mean.
Yep.
And that's why asphalt, yes or no? It just, and maybe it's asphalt only on walkways or not on the public, I mean, I don't know where, but.
Yeah, And I think the standard of like, what are we trying to prevent?
Yeah.
Are we trying to prevent like somebody putting in steps and like paving the tread of a step? Like, would that be a bad use of asphalt?
It would be
Probably, right?
ugly
I
as-
feel like, yeah,
it would
exactly,
be
and I feel like I've
really
seen that.
ugly.
And so like, should it be asphalt on smooth walkways?
Yeah, I mean, maybe,
Something like
yeah,
that.
right.
And, you know, if you're gonna build steps.
That's at least a gesture that we're watching your use of asphalt.
Can I just add for
Yeah.
asphalt, we're starting to use that on some of the sidewalks now in certain areas. In certain areas, it's more appropriate, because if you have a slope,
School Street,
depending on the surface, the bricks are
Very
can be
slippery.
problematic.
didn't they switch it over on School Street?
Yeah, we've switched it in a few places, and I think, are they doing it on Depot Street too, with the new development? Some area there, so you can regulate what you want, but just so you know that the town has
We
also
should
had to
not-
change
We should just remove the whole thing.
operationally what they're using.
So, I mean, for instance, the project right out front here, right, like some of the walkways are going to be asphalt, but then the more courtyard seating area, I think, is brick and
Granite,
like, yeah, granite and,
Curbstone or something.
you know, pavers made to look more like natural stone. So maybe there's something around where.
Well, you said the asphalt could be used for walkways.
Walkways, but then wider expanses.
You don't even have to say that, because if it's not a walkway, then it's like, we're not permitting playgrounds.
Or we're not permitting
Yeah,
playgrounds
or-
that are paved with asphalt.
Walkways and parking
playgrounds and
lots,
paved-
you'd
what?
see it. Walkways and parking lots.
Yeah.
Yeah, walkways and parking lots.
Wasn't there something in here too that says that you have to pave the parking lot?
So, yeah, that's, I mean,
So,
yeah, that's one of the things I added in, I think,
Section
section
two.
seven.
sorry, seven.
Yeah, 7.2.
Two,
Yeah,
parking.
which is also one of the things I wanted to get feedback on, because right now we don't have that requirement. So that specifically being in section 7 would only apply to commercial, new commercial, multifamily, mixed-use buildings. So it's not going to require your single-family homes and duplexes.
Then they should
They
pave
have
their
a-
parking lots.
What was that?
They should pave their parking lots.
Right. It seems
Why?
reasonable.
Yeah, well, I was going to say the same thing. Why do we care if they
Why do we
want to
care?
put a gravel parking lot?
The gravel goes all over the road, it's a mess.
Yeah, but it's more impervious surface. I mean, we worry about
think gravel
runoff in this
counts.
town all the time.
We
Yeah,
still
was
count
thinking-
gravel as impervious when it comes to regulating like stormwater and,
Yeah, I realize it is, but it's
yeah.
more impervious than hot top.
There's also
What do you
other things besides gravel that are short of pavement, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's, what do you call it?
Reclaim.
Reclaim, yeah.
Yeah.
Stone dust, there's all kinds of,
Or I could I mean, what if we had somebody that wanted to do like a cobblestone courtyard
Yeah.
that's part of the parking lot? Like in Portland, there's a few places, like if anyone ever has the misfortune of driving through that little turnaround in front of the Regency in Portland.
oh, yeah, yeah.
Shatters your
Oh,
teeth.
yeah.
Is cobblestone paved? I mean, how, I actually don't know, you know, from a
Yeah.
building perspective,
Right.
is
Would you
that
call that
term-
paved? I would
You
call
talk
it
about
paved.
cobblestone pavers. I mean, I'm wondering how specific the term paving is. Actually genuinely don't know from a visiting. from a
Yeah,
building.
I mean, you could look at that. In my mind, I was assuming something like that would fall within what's
Paved.
allowed, yeah.
Yeah,
As
that
in
would
like
be
loose.
paved. If you have
So not
stone,
loose.
it's paved.
Yeah, that's what I tend to.
Maybe it's another
Manufactured
defini-
product of some sort,
Maybe another definition that we should think about adding.
hardscape,
If
whatever
you
you want to
use
call it.
the paving, you better define it, that's
Right.
right.
I
You know,
mean, but
looking at
the
this
question is
section 2, this is, sorry, Andrew, this is 7.2, right? And then, so right above it says walkways shall be at least 5 feet in width and meet ADA requirement. I mean, that could be a way to sort of limit the use of asphalt too, is to say like walkways between 3 feet and 8 feet. And if it's wider than that, then you
Right,
can't
right.
pave your expansive, you know,
So
something
some little
like
tweak
that.
like that would be good.
Yeah.
If it's narrower than 3 feet, hopefully you're not considering running.
I don't know if you want to finish your preamble, or if we should go.
We can bounce
through-
around. As I said, there's not that many changes, so I mean,
No,
if-
I don't have very many. I don't know if anybody else
I
does.
have a question on page 11, if you want to go back to there.
Yeah, I have
Yeah, and I also
something
cut Andrew
before
off.
then.
Andrew, did you have?
Yeah.
I'm sitting here thinking about how many lots would be gravel and how many lots would be paved, and how many lots do we think there might be in the downtown they're gonna be, you know, I mean, is it really an issue in the downtown?
well, so that's kind of why I added it in, because it kind of captures the existing, I don't really think, as far as commercial multifamily buildings in in the design review
Yeah.
district. I think most, if not all of them, are paved
Not this one right
currently.
here.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm pointing the wrong direction. Over here, 22 Main Street would be one example of possibility, right? But anyway.
Yep.
Yeah, right.
But
it's-
even-
The abandoned lot here? Yeah.
But even most of the, I mean, I think most of the residential, single-family properties, I mean, have paved driveways, but I think there are some that might have gravel. So I
but
didn't,
those wouldn't be,
yeah, so that's why I didn't want to
Within the
capture those.
design district, so it seems like, I don't know if you want to define I hear Andrew's point, and
Well,
I hate to add,
I mean, at the very least, we can add examples within the standard, like similar
all
to
of
other
this is
standards.
acceptable, but what's not acceptable? This is, back to your point, what are we trying to
trying to
avoid?
prevent. I think trying to prevent like a big open gravel.
Muddy mess.
Yeah, sort of like washboard.
I'm not gonna argue about it, I don't care one way or the other, I'm just trying to think, you know, how many in the.
It's
and-
good
and-
thinking, I think.
And if you have a residential, if you have a multifamily, it's probably not owner-operated, and they're probably gonna have hot tops so they can plow it easily.
Right.
Of course.
So maybe the cleanest, easiest way that kind of gets at a lot of what we've just talked about is adding some sort of example of what counts as paved, as like a hard
Hardscape.
surface.
Yep.
So cobbles or brick or
Whatever.
not that anybody's gonna use brick on a paved parking lot, but, or asphalt.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, and then,
Wayne City had a comment on page 11.
yep,
I got, well, my first one, if we're gonna go in order, my first one is on 9.
my first one is on page 1. We have better
I
than
mean, you
that.
wanna go through in order, if everybody's got notes, I mean,
got-
maybe the
I got no
quickest,
problem
and
with the whole
it's
thing.
not that much.
And I,
Do whatever
so
you
s-
want.
some of mine, I met with Ford, Reiki, chair of the project review board the other day, just, was it yesterday? Not even, it was recently, Monday maybe, after he had been
Did he
through
really
this pretty
study it?
thoroughly.
Good.
And he did, you know, which to his credit, he turned around very quickly, he clearly
Good.
put some time into it, because I think we got it Thursday, and he must have done it over the weekend, because he came.
Yeah, so I didn't send this out to the PRB. That's something I wanted to talk about at the end, was maybe next month inviting the PRB here for a
Their
full
buy-in is
discussion, but-
essential.
Ford and I talked about that as well, and he was open to that idea. And we had another idea that we had is going around town and coming up with a couple of projects that we might review under our new design review ordinance and see how they fare. So like.
Oh, a
we
test.
could- Sort of a test for how this might work in the real world, like if there's a building that we might
Can I
think.
take us up a notch for a second? Is there a schedule here?
That's-
My only
yeah, I
concern
think-
is what's the schedule? Because then we have that, then we have a public hearing, then we take it to town council, then they have a public hearing.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
how do we
We also
expedite?
still, I mean, there's a bunch of,
I want them involved and bought in
Yeah.
completely.
we still have to do the reclassification of
The building.
the map in the building, because there's some updates there.
If
and-
there's time, then
And-
if you can lay out a schedule, but then we should really hold to,
Yeah.
next month we do it with PRV, the very next month, we must have a public hearing, we must, you
Yeah.
know?
The other thing that, I mean, I think bigger picture as we're going through this, keeping in mind that process and what might be useful or not as we continue to move down these final steps. I think we also have a little bit of work to do on the graphics and the photos. And I think,
Yep.
and I think we're kind of, like, we've parted ways with North Star at this point, like, we're kind of keeping it in-house. Is that fair to say?
For the most part, I think it
We might
can
get
be
more-
assumed that most of the work we want done at this point would be more efficiently done ourselves.
I believe that should be
So I
true,
think
too.
that's, I mean, for better and maybe
For better or worse.
For better or worse, I think that's probably the cleanest path forward. And that may be that we, I mean, maybe I'll go around with a camera for a minute and can put another volunteer hour into this long process. If there's photos that need to be filled in,
Yeah, I
or
mean,
something
that
like
was-
that needs to be filled in. I think we can, you know,
That was part of the feedback I wanted to get, is
Yeah.
if there were specific things that people wanted to see visually,
Mm-hmm.
and it's things that board members or staff
yeah.
can go around and do, and then we can add it in, yeah.
Yeah, and I think, and there's some labeling that needs to be done on the graphics to clarify graphics. So there's definitely still some work to do here before it's ready for public hearing. So I do think there's time to go to the PRB and go through that sort of like mock approval
Perfect,
process.
perfect.
Ford said, at least in theory, he obviously hadn't talked to anyone on the board, but he said, at least in theory, he thought the board might be willing to come to our meeting rather than have us go to theirs, so.
Yeah, I was thinking next month, the June meeting for that, and that wouldn't be
Setting
the
up like
only
a
thing.
workshop.
We could do some of these other exercises as
Mm-hmm.
well. If there was like a test of recent
Can
projects
we do
that
that
we wanted.
between now and then, so that the results of the test are at the meeting to be discussed, or?
Yeah, I can, I
Because
mean,
otherwise, we have this meeting, then they say, okay, but we're gonna test it, and then we test it, and it doesn't work.
if you want just me to run a couple things
Town planner.
That'd be
that have
great.
recently gone to PRB through this ordinance, I
Caroline
can
doesn't
write
like
it
this
up in
idea.
a staff report.
I don't love this idea of,
Re-adjudicating.
yes, projects that were recently approved. I feel like it would be problematic and a slippery slope if it slips in.
What if it's just a
so
test to
I
see,
guess-
what if it's just an internal test, not
That's
for
what I was.
public, just
Maybe
to see
take
if it's something
something-
is not clear?
What if it's not recent? That's what originally I was thinking like,
I'd rather 100% not do a recent
yeah,
project.
if it's like, I mean, a house in one of the residential neighborhoods, it's been there
I
for
think
100 years.
maybe
What
we
would
could
happen
talk
if
about
somebody drew the plans up and brought those today? Would we approve it? What would, those kind of, maybe we say nothing
Yeah,
for the
I
past
don't think we
15
should do it
years.
with a recent
That's fine,
project.
yeah.
So that's a slippery slope. Maybe we can do it with some really old project or,
Well, maybe there's another way to, without even doing a specific project, but it's a test of
I
what is
also-
not clear.
We could ask ChatGPT to
I think we
drop
need to
some
find a
plans
way to
for us.
craft it. I think it could be a slippery slope. It could also be like, well, when the planning board put this project through the test with that peak roof, they approved it. And now this board that actually applies it isn't. I think there's a slippery slope, and maybe there's ways we can do some kind of spot check on it.
I was more, I mean, in my admittedly very loosely thought out version of this, it was actually just like taking some photos and having a discussion with the project review board and the planning board. Not official
Would you know how to
documentation or
use,
anything,
would
just
you
saying
know how
like,
to apply this to that?
I mean, you have the photos in here, so that will show you what it would look like if you're gonna meet the standard. I think we could look at it. I think we need to be very careful how we roll that out in a boardroom to make sure it does not interfere
what if we go to a
with the
different town?
role and
Yeah,
authority.
what if we go to a different
Take
town?
photos of their buildings and then imagine
and-
ourselves,
If you have more time, maybe.
yeah, okay.
I think we need to tread carefully, is what I want to
Fair enough. I just think it would be useful to go through the thought experiment of how buildings would fare under these, especially where it's like,
I
would it
think we
keep
could
out?
write up,
Also
even if it was like a
amend.
hypothetical scenario with a fake building or a building from
Yeah.
somewhere else or anything, and we could create some examples and write it up in the staff report and then have you guys.
I mean, you should have
as
some
an
examples
exercise.
within the ordinance already that show you what,
No, the issue, of course, what's pictured is gonna be okay. The question is, this thing that isn't pictured, is that okay? And is it close enough or not, and is it clear what?
Just take a picture of a house in Yarmouth and pretend it's in
Yeah, I mean-
Freeport and just
Just
say,
say, is
how
that
would we
okay?
apply this new ordinance to this house
Right.
if it was in Freeport?
or
I
take
guess-
a picture of a McDonald's, in Auburn. I
I
mean, that's
wanna
the
make-
sort of, it's like if that's the kind of thing that we're trying to prevent, then
Well,
wanna
we
make
have
sure
anyways.
These are clear so that you can look at that and be like, oh yeah, that actually would meet the standards, so. I mean, at a high level, I like the idea, I just think it could create some challenges depending how we do that.
Well, if you guys have studied it and thought about it with that in mind, that's the most important part. And then can't we also amend it over time when we?
Yes, we can.
find that
We can amend it next year.
Yeah, we were
You
pretty,
amend,
month.
you're never gonna get everything right, probably.
yeah, you can amend it, and we've been very careful on the pictures, like, we were like, if there's anything in that picture that you cannot do here, do not show it in a picture, because that's not fair
Right.
to the user. So I do feel like the pictures we have, we put a lot of thought into.
So,
yeah, we may need to
Yarmouth
do,
pictures in there.
we may need to do more annotation in the picture, just, I don't know.
I think that's what Kyle wants to hear from you guys tonight, so
Yeah.
we can have a path forward to get
Yeah,
graphics
well-
that you feel are good.
The graphic, that's a great segue to my very first comment on page one. And this is coming from discussion with Ford as well.
Right.
Putting up right at the top in the purpose section, a nod to the graphics, the intent of the graphics is to be an aid to the reviewing authority to stay true to this purpose.
Okay.
I think making that explicit, that it's like, we haven't just sprinkled random graphics through here, it's like the intent is that these graphics represent the desirable,
solution,
the
yeah.
things that we're looking for. I think it's, it's a little bit of a, just dotting the I and crossing the T for legal purposes, but I think it's
Good idea.
a good addition. I think under definitions, I'm a little concerned about the aggrieved party definition. Because I could
Page?
imagine, sorry, page 2.
Top, aggrieved party.
Yeah. An owner of land whose property is directly or indirectly affected seems very broad. I could imagine a lot of ways for people's property to be indirectly affected by things. And I just wonder, and this is I'm happy to be overruled by somebody who understands the law better on this, but, if there's a
It only
way.
applies where it applies, so you'd have to find out where is.
Yes.
But it's in an appeals process, right?
It's in the appeals process,
So-
and so who's not allowed to appeal is the question, and
Well, isn't it always a distance issue?
Well, but that's what it's
Yeah.
like, could I say,
You drive
that
by it and you
I-
agree?
yeah, I own property in the design review district, therefore I am
Agreed.
an owner of land,
Yeah.
and I don't like,
Yeah.
the fact that somebody's dormer occupies 51% of their roof way over on the other side of town, and therefore I am I don't know.
So this brings up, we also haven't done legal review of this yet, which we would do before we would.
circle that one.
Okay, yeah.
So a aggrieved party in this instance, really, does it have, how does it have a standing in this document? Doesn't that just take them
There
to the
is
board?
something, there is a part at the very end
I
about.
was gonna say, the aggrieved party should take them to the Board of Appeals, shouldn't it?
I think,
Yeah.
I think that's
That's
how.
the usual route if you're an aggrieved party,
It's in
Right.
page 29. Does
which
it
gives
even
you a
mention
500-foot
aggrieved
distance.
party? 'Cause you could just remove it.
Well, it should match everything else in the ordinance.
Must
Well,
be
no, it might,
somewhere.
because the bulk of the ordinance was done by North Star, and I think there was a different appeal section at one point, and one of the staff changes was to match the appeal section to existing language that we had,
okay,
maybe
I
in the
see.
site plan ordinance, so it is possible that they had used a term that is no longer used in the ordinance, so I can do a
All right,
control F.
See, it either ought to match section 10,
Right.
you know?
right, I'm looking for it in section 10 and I don't see it.
Yeah.
But it's
That
also
just-
true
That just
that-
shows the route, section 10 shows the route to appeal.
Yep.
But it also doesn't show who has standing.
Who has
for an
standing?
appeal.
But the question is does that even need to be in this document, who has standing?
Yeah. Why does it need to be here?
Who decides who has standing? Does this document decide that?
Or would an appeal be made
Or would
under
an appeal
zoning,
be made
not
under-
under, I don't even, I have no
No,
idea.
this is zoning.
Yeah, the appeal.
Idea. Maybe we punt this whole thing to the legal review and.
You know, just as, if you're
We
gonna
can flag
have
the
a legal
definition
review.
and, yeah,
Well, we ought
see
to
if
flag it at
we
least.
need it at all, and if we,
It feels like it should be in whatever section of the ordinance defines the right to appeal. If that's what gives it effect, then probably just, and you could maybe cross-reference it here
Right.
but you might just do a cross-reference to, and that would keep that definition live if there's a change in the section of the ordinance that allows for an appeal. So that might be the most efficient way to do it.
You're saying leave this in but refer it to somewhere else, or take
Well,
this out?
Only if that makes sense. I'm not familiar with the portion of the ordinance that
If
defines
there's
the
another
appeal
place
right.
that explains the whole thing about who can appeal and who has standing and
Well,
how
it is,
it
it's the Board
goes,
of
we
Appeals.
just
I mean, I
say-
think what it brings to mind for me is like,
To there.
like the appeal of the property next door was specifically based on design review. Right?
Plus, it had to be a
was not-
distance.
So it was an
Correct.
appeal that was done sort of under the design review ordinance.
And it was
No?
done by a neighbor, but not in a butter.
But he was within the distance.
He was near, but,
Well, you had to be so far away.
he was close.
You're
But I think,
outside.
but bigger picture, it's like if we take the appeals section out or try to use an appeals section from a different, like there should be an appeals section in here, right? And then we should figure out who has standing to make a design review based appeal, and then whatever terms are used in that definition of who has standing should be defined in the definition section.
See, I don't think a
So-
aggrieved party here really leads somebody in the right direction.
Right.
Because
No, I
it doesn't
agree,
lead them
because
to
it's not.
It doesn't lead them to the appeals process, and this I don't think matches the appeals process.
Yeah, though, I think my concern is that we don't have a definition for
That's right.
who would have standing. It
Who-
could be like,
who is-
it could be
who can-
somebody.
Who can
somebody
be an
drove
aggrieved
through
party,
town,
which was your issue.
That was his issue.
Somebody who's
Very
visiting
good
once
catch.
and feels somehow aggrieved.
I looked over that.
And related-
somewhat Yada, yada. It's-
Related question is, what does indirectly affected mean?
Right, and I think we
Yeah.
hopefully sort that out
Yeah.
down the road.
So we're flagging that hole.
Yeah. Yep. The only other thought I had, and again, I have to give Ford a lot of credit for at least flagging these as sort of a, hey, this needs a little attention. I think just making it clear that part of the definition of a contributing building is the fact that it's listed in Appendix B. So like, it might be subjectively awesome. It might have been built between 1950 and 1800 and 1950. But if it's not listed in Appendix B, it is by definition not a contributing building.
That's a good thing.
And someone can appeal the presence or lack of it in the appendix.
And I think just making that really explicit with like a slight wording change, like all contributing buildings are listed in Appendix B, something like that.
What if the only part of that definition is contributing buildings are listed in Appendix B? If
I think
that's-
it's helpful to have a little bit of context personally, but yeah, I think that is kind of the intent, is like,
Yeah, the tightest language.
you could even switch the sentence order. You could say, all contributing buildings are listed in
And
Appendix
basically,
B,
they
a
are
building or structure.
The old
is-
A's or the old A's and B's?
A's
Old A's
and
and Bs.
Gotcha.
Cs are the non-contributing.
C's are not, good, but the B's are a mixed bag of
Right.
So what-
B's.
So is A at the beginning, does that mean a building, or is that a building?
No, yeah, it's just a building,
A building,
not
okay.
a class
Any old
A.
I
building.
see a capital A there, I know it's the beginning of the sentence, but I'm trying to figure out, because we have A and B buildings, so maybe we don't have A and B
We don't
buildings.
have them anymore.
We have what, 1 and 2, or?
Contributing and
non-contributing?
Are all buildings listed in Appendix B?
That's what
contributing-
he's saying.
All contributing buildings are listed in Appendix B, and buildings that are not listed in Appendix B are just non-contributing.
And there are no buildings listed in Appendix B that are not contributing buildings?
Correct.
So that's
Correct.
the
It's
whole
a list,
universe?
it's the universe of contributing buildings. That's what it's supposed to be.
By definition, non-contributing. If it's not in that list, it's not contributing.
Yeah. If there's somewhere else that you could put the context, because I agree it's helpful, but sometimes if it winds up in the definition, it causes confusion. If that's a complete definition, that I might.
You can show it on the map. Just to clarify, not all current As and Bs are
Yes, that's
contributing.
fair point.
We
fair
have the
point, yeah.
study done, so if like you had a building and you've just ripped it apart and done all these modern additions, it was most likely deemed non-contributing.
So somebody who's gone through the A's and B's and cherry-picked.
This is how the whole thing started right before COVID. We hired a consultant. They went through all the A's and B's and determined if they were contributing or non-contributing. We did not go through the C's. We didn't have funding for that portion. There could be some current Class C buildings that are going to remain non-contributing unless we did a full inventory of all the parcels of the current.
Why would a current Class C suddenly become?
Be like somebody let it fall apart. It kind of fell
Oh,
off the
how
map.
could it be contributing?
Yeah,
Like,
No, but we're talking about a
Spruced it
Class C. Oh, and somebody
just brought it back up.
rehabilitated
yeah,
it or-
exactly, yeah,
I
if they'd
could,
done
you
a lot
know,
of work.
if
or-
I were, had like multiple extra zeros at the end of my net worth, I would do that to my neighbor's building, which is.
Oh, right, right.
Which
Uh-huh.
has fallen
Yeah.
off the map, and I would love to see it come
There
back
could be
up.
some restoration.
Underneath there is actually
Underneath
something
there is
real.
something nice, yeah.
I think when you read it, generally speaking at a high level, you could assume that most of the As and Bs are contributing because that is the case, but we have the inventory done and it is not
So
universal.
it's, yeah, it's a
And as
bunch.
part of this process, it'll be very clear that we are publishing this list of contributing buildings. They are B, and people could argue, if they're a C and they want to be contributing building, they could argue they belong on the list.
Yeah, so
There'll be
the-
some
Yep.
method to appeal.
We will notify all property owners, give them the inventory sheet so they can review the information. There are a few properties that have since removed buildings since we've done it, so that classification might change and we'll have to update those sheets. But yes, we need to give the public the chance to go through and look at their sheets to make sure it's
That
still
should
accurate.
include everybody, not just the contributing people.
Well, we would
Everybody
have,
in the design district, this is the list of the ones in the district that have been,
yes, but we
contributing.
only have the inventory sheets for the current A and B, so those are the only ones that we're gonna notify about, hey, here's your classification, because those Cs,
But,
they'll be notified about
But
the
also-
project, but they
yeah.
won't have a data sheet for their
right,
property.
but everybody will get a notification about this
Yes.
process.
Yep.
Just by virtue of being in
Yes.
the design review. So everybody will know what's going on.
Yep.
But that is a good flag too of like
well,
another thing
yeah,
that has to be
it
done.
seems to me the Cs would still get, that these are the buildings in the neighborhood that have been classified as contributing.
Yes, they will. They'll get a slightly different notice because we
different
don't have
note.
that data sheet
Yeah,
for
yeah,
their
that's right, it
property.
won't refer to that.
They might have to read a little deeper to get to.
Okay. Enough on this one?
Yeah, I kind of have the, like, the ditto note on the, not the definition of non-contributing.
Is more from Ford? Should we get Ford's full input, or as we go through?
We'll do it in order.
Okay.
Yeah, just yeah, same thing for the non-contributing, that just make it clear that if it's not in the list, it is non-contributing.
So you're saying we're gonna rework the contributing, non-contributing definitions? Is that what
I
we're
don't
doing?
think it needs to be substantially reworked. I
Yeah.
just think it, like
Tweak.
adding a word like
Yeah, okay.
all,
Okay, yeah, good.
something like that. All right, anyone have anything else in the definition section?
I have one other thing, and this sounds absurd, but I saw this become a problem once, we were talking about, for example, new construction, a new standalone structure. I don't think we define structure here. Is there anywhere where we actually talk
in
about
the-
that?
So structure would be defined in zoning ordinance,
okay,
and
thank
we would default to that.
Okay,
But-
perfect.
Do we want it here?
Well, right at the top, it says definitions listed here supplement definitions of the zoning ordinance. So the idea here is that we're not defining every single thing.
Yeah.
That this is, the design review district is referenced in the zoning ordinance.
okay.
So this is kind of like a,
Just remember
blown up
years-
version of it's, the only reason it's its own thing outside of zoning is because it's such like a large document.
Yeah.
And
I
that-
just remember years ago, we tried to make it sure that people didn't have to bounce back and forth from one document to the next to find the definition, come
Yeah,
back here
which-
and see what I gotta do, go back to the other document.
Is a
Yeah, it's fair.
laudable goal, but becomes a maintenance problem,
Oh,
because
yeah.
then you have to be really careful to
Yeah.
keep the two in sync.
If it's possible, and I know this might be hard, but to capitalize terms defined
Yeah.
in the other, that might signal to the reader that that's a defined term in another area of statute, and they should look for the definition.
We should just
elsewhere.
get rid of paper, everything can be hyperlinked.
Completely, yes.
Okay, section 4, applicability.
I had a question on section 3, which
Yep.
is,
Back we go.
I did not understand 3A, changes in material that are not related to changes in form, facade, or architectural elements.
I think we're,
Oh, wait, you're on 4.3A, is
Oh,
that?
okay, I'm on page 11.
oh yeah, sorry,
No,
that's
we're
like.
still on page
Oh,
4.
Oh, okay, gotcha, sorry, I thought you were
6.3,
going
yeah.
past it.
I'm on section
Never mind.
4,
Go ahead.
asking about section 4.
Anybody, what's the first page anybody's got a comment on now?
4.
You got one on
Oh,
4?
yeah, I'm
Oh,
yeah,
good,
just
go
going, yeah.
forward.
I wonder about the, adding a clarification to the addition to a non-contributing building over 500 square feet, if that's 500 square feet of floor area or building footprint. B, 4, 2B.
To be made.
It's in B, C, and D, right?
Yeah, it's the same kind of thing, comes up multiple times.
I think additions, we'd be looking at footprint. That was how we.
Yeah,
do
well,
it.
yeah, because it's.
Yeah,
it's
so addition
specifically-
is a defined term, says increases the square footage of a building's footprint.
Okay.
Alteration is defined as alteration shall also include any addition that increases gross floor area. So I can clarify that in the applicability sections, just for, so you don't have to go back and forth between the definitions.
That would be my preference there, having just had the discussion that says it could be a maintenance thing. But that's not the type of maintenance thing that's gonna change, I don't think. The intent is, so you could build 1,000 square foot addition, right? With, whatever on the first floor and then 500 square feet of whatever on the second floor. Or that's a bad example. You could build a 950 square foot addition with two 475, right? And fall just under the threshold. Then D, so 4-2D, you had highlighted, right, Kyle? Basically looking for the threshold, like, is the threshold set correctly? Is that your question?
Yeah, so I highlighted anything new I added since the last time, and, right, I mean, I picked 500 square feet there for the impervious, because it kind of tied into what we had talked about with the building expansions, but that could be a different number as well, so wanted some feedback on that.
Yeah.
You know, are people largely okay with 1,000 square foot of new impervious parking being reviewed by staff instead of 500? You know, like what's that number?
Well, this doesn't even say parking, could
Well,
it
I'm
be?
just
could it
using
be
it as an
anything-
example.
Probably the
Well, I'm just
most,
asking, could it be something other than parking?
Yeah, it could be anything. I
Patio.
mean, you're right. I mean, someone could do like a paved patio kind of deck area, just walkways throughout, expanded sidewalk in the front setback. You know, that's one of the things we kind of advocate for, is using that front setback area for some purpose. So someone could be transitioning a landscaping area to seating, a paved seating area out front of a building.
it's almost one of those where I like that threshold on, and it appears somewhere, and right now I can't remember where, they're like mallet, mane, and bow as being our sort of like,
Yeah, in section 7, when it talks about like the windows, I think.
storefronts, that's what it is, yeah. It's one of those where, and maybe we don't want to get that granular with it, but that's one where I would say, I almost want to say 500 is the right threshold in those areas, and everywhere else it could be 1,000. But, I don't know.
I don't know.
500 square feet, like
It's
this.
almost the
is
other
this
way.
room-
500 is a big, garage is, a garage is 500
This room is
feet.
probably about 500 square feet, maybe bigger even.
This room is bigger than that. But the point is, if we're trying to, as you know, I was for throwing the entire thing in the garbage can. But assuming that you want a design review ordinance and people want to have the opportunity to make sure that things accord, why would a small addition a 200 square foot, 300 square foot addition could be quite impactful?
Oh, I'm not
So
talking
it's
about
not that
additions
it-
though, I'm talking about just impervious area.
It's also not that it
impervious
wouldn't
area,
be
I'm with you on. Right.
reviewed. They'd all still be reviewed under the ordinance. It's just what qualifies for staff review, which
Oh, so
versus what qualifies for project review
And you'll
board.
be as tough as them.
Well, we'd use the
have
same
them.
standards.
Okay.
But, in some of these cases, as you kind of scale up, there starts to introduce a little bit of flexibility in the review in some cases. So it's like in those cases, generally, we don't want staff being involved in something that could go one way or the other. Like a staff review should be for something that's pretty objective.
So would you then kick it to the project review
Yeah.
board if you were?
That's what we have now. If
nervous?
something is more controversial, either applicant or staff wants it to go to the board instead, we
Got
can
it.
do that. Yeah. It's also a starting point. I mean, like right now, on site plan, it's, if you introduce anything under 1,000 square feet, it's eligible for staff review.
That's kind
But-
of where, yeah.
The reason I started with 500 is because we're
It is-
talking specifically about downtown design review. Right, a small change can have a bigger visual impact, and it's also a starting point. This could always be revisited in a year if we think, a 500 was too small, we could bump it up. But we could also just bump it up now, whatever people are thinking.
I'm okay with it. If other people feel good with it, that's fine. I think it's good. I promise I'll slow down at some point with my notes here, but at the bottom of page 4, the last little bit here, any construction of a new, exemptions now, so we're talking about things that would not need to comply with the standards in this ordinance, construction of a new accessory building less than 200 square feet. I
Even if it's
think-
right in
well,
the
so
front
I-
and
no, so I-
visible on
exactly.
the
So I
street?
think that
Well, but it can't be because there's.
right. It can't, so there's something else in the ordinance that says that you can't put an accessory building closer to the street than your primary facade. However, I feel like it would be useful to have that here, so that somebody doesn't get fired up and just like, oh, sweet,
Well,
I can, I can put my shed right on the
If I
front
can
setback.
skip ahead just for a second to page, I think it's right here, 9, it's 6(1)B.
Yeah, I read something somewhere
And
about
I
you
was
can't
trying
use
to understand what it said. Oh, no, that's the parking, but there's another one, it's right here.
Outbuildings
C,
such
yeah.
as sheds and detached garages
Shall be located in the rear, location closer to the street than the primary is not permitted. But that means it is permitted to be abutting the primary building, not set back. So keep that in mind when you talk about that 200 feet. It's on the
Yeah.
street wall.
Right. So my suggested change here was any construction of a new accessory building less than 200 square feet and whose footprint is set back no less than 15 feet from the primary structure's primary facade. Anyone? Mitch is happy.
No, it's a shed.
I
That's
live
a
to
shed
make
in
you
your
happy. at
backyard.
Freeport,
That's good.
15.
That's right. I mean, I'd be interested in other people's opinion, but that exactly solves the issue.
And I don't think it conflicts with anything else because it's specifically an exempt, like,
Yeah,
if
it'd
you
be
meet that
fine.
condition, you're
Yeah,
exempt.
If you were a 200 square foot structure, not setback 15 feet, then you would just be a new accessory building. Well, I
You
guess
still have to have town planner review, but this
Like,
is
so I
getting you
guess
out from the town planner.
3C there should be switched to any construction of a new accessory building between 0 and 500, not 200 and 500.
No, 200 and 500, because you're exempting the 200.
Well, if
Well,
it's.
You're only
Oh,
exempting it if it's setback.
oh, yes, that's right. So you
If
get
you
rid of
wanted
the.
to do a 150 square foot building equal to the,
Yep,
You don't want a shed right at the street wall without review.
right. So can you just
that-
take out the
So I
200
think you take
there
out the
and
200,
call
you're
it good?
correct.
Yeah.
And then you add in his thing, and that works.
All right.
It seems to me that the problem I have with some of that stuff is public, if it's visible from a public right of way, well, a lot of this stuff, no matter how far back it is, going to be visible from the right of way.
Sure, but if it's 15, I mean, just take the,
Well, I'm not saying you shouldn't be back a little bit, I'm just
Yeah.
saying, the part that, I'd rather see somebody say 15 feet than visible from the public right of way.
that's right, that's why I thought that was really good, 15
but-
feet, that's it. If you
Almost
have-
any house that's on a lot in downtown, there's the driveway, if you want to put a garage at the end of the driveway, it's going to be visible from the public right of way.
Sure,
the visible from the public right of way is just saying that if there's a shed out back behind the existing house, you're not gonna be able to see it from the street. That doesn't trigger any review at all.
Right.
you can do
That's
whatever
how
you
our
want.
current
in your
design review.
backyard.
Okay, I just don't read, I don't read it that way, but.
Because
You're telling me that's how
trying
you
to set up a bracket that says, like, if it's really small, then it's exempt as long as it meets this very basic setback.
But
If
that's the
it's a-
interpretation we have tonight.
But if it's a little bit bigger, then it needs a slightly higher level of review if you can see it. But if you can't see it, then we don't care. It's kind of,
Yeah,
that's
I
what
mean,
we're
the way
trying
a
to.
design review functions right now is if you can't see it, it
Out of sight, out of
doesn't
mind.
trigger anything, because these are purely visual
Yeah.
standards. It's not
Does that make sense to you, Andrew? What's the part that you're?
I don't know, I'm just getting,
So the garage in the backyard way set back that is visible is
Not
subject to
necessarily,
the
though.
standard,
Okay,
depending
okay.
on its size.
I'm just trying to make the, who's interpreting. Yeah, I understand the 15 feet back, you don't want it right up on the street wall or on the front of the house wall, but, when it's, I don't know, I'm used to dealing with distances, okay, it's, either it's out back or it's out front, and if it's out back, but visible from the public right away, there's lots of stuff visible from the public right away, and it might be way in the back, but it's still visible from the public right away, from somebody's right away,
Yeah.
so,
Yeah, I mean, we do this actually.
not my neighborhood, so I'm not gonna build
come
uptown,
in
but,
and,
I'm just,
They propose a shed or garage.
it's
and
almost a one-car garage
the
at this
first
point.
question we
Yeah.
usually ask them, me and someone from codes will be up at the front desk and they're like, well, can you see it from the road? Like, sometimes it's yes, sometimes it's like, oh, no, it'll be out back. And sometimes it's a question mark. And then, I'll walk by to see if it's, I can legitimately make the case or not that,
Can you see it from the road in December
Yeah.
or July? It's like.
yeah,
it's
could I see
kind
it
of-
from the road
yeah.
if you planted a tree right there? In which case, go plant the tree and then, come
That
back
solves the
in a
problem.
week. Yeah. So, we try to use kind of just good judgment there.
Yeah. All right. Anyone else on page 4 or 5? Page 5 is my pet window project. Just adding a little bit of clarity to the simulated divided lights. And the clarity that I'm proposing is with physical bars at least 3/16 proud of the exterior face of the glass.
Where's it, which number?
This is D. So page 5,
Replace on the inside, same size, no change. The existing windows have on the existing light shall be maintained with true or similar, and you want to define what a true.
what a simulated, because a simulated divided light could be, and this is, this is something,
inserts.
this is, Ford and I share this concern
Yeah.
that a simulated divided light could be
An insert.
electrical tape,
Of-
like, that doesn't cast a shadow. And so my thing is, like, if we're gonna go through the trouble of saying simulated divided light, we should be specific, because I would actually rather not have a simulated divided light at all than have, like, one that looks like it's faking it. I'm a snob, sorry. I apologize, but I
share this
do,
snobbery,
but I do
so-
think that
and
that's.
So does Ford, for sure.
In the design review district, again, if people like that look and it's not in the design, fine, I have no judgment for that. But in the design review district, I would like to see it throwing a shadow.
I don't care. Whatever you want to do.
So what was the specific?
As long as it's clear, right?
Yeah, physical bars at
As
least.
long as I can read it and help me
3/16
what to do.
proud of
And
the
I can go and
exterior.
buy that window somewhere. It's not something like I have to have custom made. If I can go down to Hammond Lumber and
Yeah,
buy
this
that
is like
window.
any,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Not some weird archaic,
nope, no,
I can only get from Europe or something,
yeah.
Yep.
No, the Europeans don't like these things and they're.
Yeah, they like plain windows.
So, that's it for page 5, and then I'm good for a little bit, believe it or not.
I have one comment at the top of page 7. Just, I may not have the backstory on this, but I just noticed that it references and see there that the town's expert consultant will have a role. I just was noting that you said that you'd sort of changed your approach in terms of the involvement of the consultant, so I don't know if it makes sense to kind of look at where there's a defined role for a consultant across the.
It sort of starts right there with at the beginning, they may require a peer review design professional or expert consultant.
Yeah, right.
And so we got into like, yeah, could that be a hornet's nest?
Yeah, to have the requirement for the consultant. And it sounds like maybe you've thought about, maybe there's been pre-existing conversation about this that I'm not,
It's-
I mean.
It's discretionary, right?
It's discretionary, right? It's like, the idea is that if the PRB feels like reviewing a project, or when reviewing a project of sufficiently large scale, that there are parts of it that fall outside of their expertise, or there's something that they're reviewing that falls outside of their expertise, they can say, hey, we really think that a consultant should weigh in on this.
Okay, that makes sense. And so then you're defining, so the shalls here are all just defined, once you've engaged that consultant, use your
Yeah,
discretion to
correct.
do it, then you
Yeah.
define that role. Okay, that
Yeah,
makes
if you
sense.
hired one, that's what they would have to do.
So you can't just, so the PRB can't say, thank you for your application, we're gonna hire a consultant, and oh, by the way, it's gonna be 150 grand, you now owe us 150 grand. There's
makes
kind of
sense.
like a check in between.
Okay, thank you.
That was the intent, at least, right?
Yeah,
Well-
yeah, the idea wasn't that, like, like a plan has to be done by, like a architect, specializing in historic architecture or something, and.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, but when you read that, it doesn't really give the applicant a say in who the town's expert consultant is. It just says, they're gonna hire one, and they're gonna tell you how much, and then you're gonna pay.
And you're gonna pay before it starts, so that does
Might be
create an
some-
opportunity for appeal, I suppose.
It might be just the fact that, the town hires one consultant, and he says, look, I got another guy that's just as good, we can hire here, and but there should be some give and take on, who we're hiring here. The applicant should have some say. Doesn't mean he can bring in a ringer, but,
Well,
if one's qualified and they're both qualified.
In practice, I feel like that has been typical, right? I know I can think of at least one sort of current ongoing case where multiple consultants have been brought in from each side.
Yeah.
and then a third one, right, to settle
and-
the disagreements between the first
The
two.
PRB doesn't use this heavily, like,
Yeah.
I mean, definitely on design review, but even on site plan review where there's similar provisions and allowances for the PRB to bring in, like consultants or require additional studies on top of
What
things.
would trigger a consultant here, an expert consultant? What would trigger it?
I think it would,
It seems like just discretion. I didn't mean to sort of raise a.
No,
it
this
seems
is
like-
actually a good one to raise.
This is how we do everything.
Yeah, and this
I
is,
should have
we've
quickly.
talked about this before, and I don't know that we've thought it all the way through.
I think you don't have criteria for, so if they may require, what are the criteria that would raise their discretion? I guess you could talk about that.
Well, the part that disturbs me a little bit now that you raise this is that the town has discretion to do it. If the town does it, all the costs are borne by the applicant, and there's no place where the applicant can challenge that or propose
Well, he
something
cannot
cheaper.
pay. He cannot pay. That's the only thing is, it's
That's
not
the only
gonna
choice he has,
start.
is say, no, I'm done.
Yeah, but then they don't get their application.
right.
Correct.
Which
So
is the
that's a-
same
that's a
way we
hardship.
would handle site plans, right? You know, if the project review board says, you know, you need to do a traffic study, and the applicant says, I don't want to, the PRB is just not going to approve the
it's
project
somewhat
because they have nothing to
similar.
review.
Yeah, but the
on.
traffic study is, you know, if it's part of the plan to begin with,
No, it's actually quite similar, that traffic study, because the traffic study is discretionary. They may not,
yeah.
it may not say that you must do it, and then they say, we want one.
I think this, to me, it gets to a little bit the sort of, one of the foundations that this, or really any document, is built on, is a board of reasonable people asking reasonable things.
yeah.
And the minute you don't have a board of reasonable people, then a lot of this stuff becomes pretty problematic.
You want to at least put the word reasonable in here? Like the costs have to be reasonable?
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, that's a
Shall
good
be
idea.
reasonable and be borne by the applicant.
Yeah, or you could say like, mutually agreed upon consultant.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
it says Project Review Board in its sole discretion, it's quite clear about that, and I think there's a reason why, because they have to say this guy's okay, you can't just say my guy, and
Yeah.
No, but he should be able to bring a
If
guy and
it's, I
say,
mean, I guess
I
the,
would say in consultation, or, you know,
if you went with mutually agreed upon, then, I mean, that feels reasonably fair, because
Yeah,
it
that's all
almost
I'm
has to be anyway.
So it
because if
doesn't
the
say
person's not
the
gonna pay for
PRB
it,
is
then-
selecting the
it
consultant.
does, the consultant shall be fully qualified it doesn't say they're selecting, correct?
Yeah, it says
They may
the,
require, and the consultant must be qualified as determined by the Project
the
Review Board.
PRB is just making a determination that the consultant's
actually-
qualified.
You're correct.
Which is what they do in site plan with the technical capacity
It
finding.
almost suggests that the applicant
applicant's
would
the one
bring
finding.
the
Yeah.
consultant.
Which is a good balance of power, actually. That makes sense to me. Even if, what would it be like if you actually defined that and specifically said that it's the applicant who, maybe you don't need to do that, but that strikes me as a good balance, that as long as the PRB.
I mean, it is pretty typical, I guess, when you think about like a site plan review process, often the applicant will arrive like with the stormwater engineer or
Right,
somebody
right,
who
right.
presents their.
Right.
So-
and they-
Yeah, I mean, it's, right, I mean, the PRB has made conditions on site plan projects where they want to see additional landscaping, and they say, you know, okay, you need a qualified landscape architect to do it, but the applicant goes out and picks their own landscape architect and can field different quotes and whatever, and, you know, comes back and the PRB, you know, says, yeah, this is fine. So it is, I think, similar to the process we currently
I
use.
think it's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm satisfied. Thanks.
Okay, moving merrily along.
My next comment on page 9 is really not anything except to just flag the fact that we obviously need work on the documenting the parts of the graphic here that we like. And
Well, so if we're going through, like, kind of like this, I don't know if we want to start it out as more of the text comments, but if we want to just go through with the graphic comments, feedback as well, we can just do that, so we're doing it all at once.
We should.
But on that topic, like the sketch images, not the photos, the sketches, the few that are in there with the labels, those are definite rough draft, and the labeling is going to be formalized.
I guess that makes sense. It would be pretty
I mean, I
embarrassing. to
did
put
this
the-
weird sketch over here trying to understand, is this even what you meant? Like, and I thought, if this is what you mean, that's fine, but you might need to explain what you mean.
These sketches came from the consultant and the labeling, so.
Well, I mean, this is where so I did not go through this thinking what needs to be drawn. But maybe that's a good review to say that we need a drawing here. But like, I was reading 1B there on page 9, and I just thought I needed a drawing to explain. No portion of an accessory parking lot other than an access driveway may be closer to the street than the building. So I guess it means you can have it right next to the building?
Yeah, yeah, you can have it to the
Can't have
side.
any parking in front.
Parking can't extend in front of the building.
I mean, you might just want to, that's the kind of thing that a drawing will just clarify. Maybe it's clear to everybody else, but I just was.
So it's trying to show it in the sketch, you know, right? You have like the street kind of wall of buildings, and then B is highlighting the parking lot behind it. You can see
So
on.
this is the parking lot going to the street wall,
Yeah,
to the
yeah, so
wall.
then you can see on the
I
street
gotcha.
kind of running north-south, there's another curb cut there, but that's just the driveway that's in, 5 feet in front of those buildings along the street. The parking wouldn't start. I mean, maybe that could be helped a little more by like delineating some
Yeah,
fake
like
parking
lines of
spaces
park-
back there
yeah,
to
that's
show where
right.
the parking
A better
starts.
drawing might do it.
But it sounds like better
Didn't quite get
drawing.
that.
But we could also add a photo there to capture things like that, of like a parking lot to the side and rear.
You got a little text problem on D. If a building sits on a corner lot where both streets are public streets, the primary entrance may be oriented to the corner, like Sherman's, or the building may have a primary entrance along each. I think it has to say along either or both, because this implies they must have 2 doors. If they don't do the corner, they have to have 2 doors. That's how I read it, which I don't think is what you mean.
That might,
Along
Well,
each,
I
is that
think
what
it's
you
saying,
want?
yeah, I think it's saying each because you're saying you may have 2 primary entrances.
Well, you have,
Don't, because, I mean, if you just say,
may have, maybe it's the word may solves
Well,
the
it's-
problem, but
this is ringing some bell deep in
I mean, we,
some discussion months and months and months ago.
we spend time on all of this, so
I
this
know.
is
All
definitely.
doors must be on the corner.
no, we don't want, I mean,
No, it's a good question. I feel like the reason, and I agree that the wording could probably be tuned up. I feel like it was that each, if you're on a corner lot in the design review, it
on
was
both, and
that
then
each-
use the word both. Maybe, or the building may have a primary entrance along both.
Then it should, but then it should be
Or must
primary
have a primary-
entrances.
Must have primary entrances along both. I mean, if
Yeah.
that's what you mean, then say that. But I didn't think that's what you meant.
I mean, this building,
Thought you
doesn't,
meant either.
right? Like, this building does not have there'd be an entrance right here.
There's a street there.
Right. There'd have to be an entrance right here.
Yeah, with a key.
So I think as it reads now, it's allowing it on the corner, it's allowing it on one of the streets, or it's allowing it on
Oh,
both.
if it's allowing it on one or both, could you just say one or both? Because I think it's open to interpretation what this says. I think one or both is fine, but it doesn't say that. Along each, may have along each.
Yeah. A building may have one or more primary
One-
entrances along one or more public streets.
Just, if you just read it slowly and make sure it's crystal clear, I think you'll get it, but I think may have a primary entrance along either public street fronting, on either or both public street fronting facades.
Either implies one or the other, like if they wanted to have it on
Along
both.
one or both, along one or
Yeah.
both, that's clear, you're correct.
Okay.
Because you want to make sure you have one facing the front.
Yep.
Well, if you have what's a public is a public street? Yeah, what if you have a corner and one corner is Route 1 and one corner is a side street? and you choose to have the entrance on the side street, is that permitted? Can you not have the entrance on Route 1, or are you required to have
This
the
might be a
entrance
place to bring back our mallet, mane, and bow designation.
on- Yeah.
To say if you have frontage along, if you have frontage along mallet, mane, and bow, and you
The
don't have a
primary-
corner entrance, then you have to have at least one
Primary
entrance
on that.
Yeah.
That would solve it. If that's the intention, that's fine.
Because then doesn't say you can't also put one on the side street, but you gotta have a main door on.
I mean, a public street, so
Well, this is a
I'm
public
trying to think
street.
if any of the streets coming off of Main Street.
I'm thinking of like,
Not
if somebody wanted to redevelop the old
The
key bank.
the key bank is the
building.
example.
Yeah, you would have to, you would want a door facing Main Street on a potential
Is that
redevelopment.
okay, what key bank would
There is a,
that
there is a
pass?
front door there.
No, I know, but if
facing
somebody
Main Street.
redeveloped that, like
There's
if
no
somebody,
door there's no door facing Route 1 to key
Yes, there
bank.
is.
Key Bank,
There's a catwalk, there's a walkway right up to the front. There's a
But
front
it's
door.
up to there.
I think I'm,
Nobody ever used it, but it's a front door.
that's right,
Oh,
but there is a door there.
there,
Yeah, there is. There's a formal door right at
but
the
if you
front.
imagine like a blank slate, somebody buys
Oh, yeah,
that
yeah, they
lot,
want to tear the front off.
tears the whole thing down, and is gonna put a new building there. Would we
Could they
want?
orient it to Elm if they chose, or would that be, and make the side and, beans.
Yeah, there's a front and a side.
Yeah, Beans doesn't have,
Beans.
Beans doesn't have a side
Beans is
door.
non-conforming
Yeah.
under this
It's
conversation.
not the only way, potentially.
Yeah, that's right. I read a couple other places in
Well,
there.
and it's truly horrible.
Well,
I mean,
actually, they have one on that end, right on the corner, but
Yeah.
it's,
They also do have,
Yeah.
I think it's one of those like project review board situations where they have a pretty good argument for not having the front, because it used to be there and it didn't work because the sidewalk is so narrow.
Yeah.
And there's such a big building with so much traffic and there's a bus stop right there. It's like, it actually, they kind of made the best of not great
well,
choices.
they still have one at each end.
Right, so,
Right there by the sidewalk.
Okay,
I'm
all
surprised
right.
they put one on whatever that street is there that goes up over the hill, whatever they call it now, Justin's Way or whatever.
They put an entrance over there?
Yes, they did. Yes, they did. There's an entrance there, too.
So
I think that whole
maybe,
thing's gonna be a cafe, so there'll be an entrance at each end.
maybe we just trust that
really is.
developers are gonna make good choices
All right.
here, and we move on from this one.
I'm done.
With the
I
clarification.
got the one or both.
Yeah.
so
One or
I'll-
both. Are we done with 9? Anybody else on 9?
Really minor one, on 2B, so page 10, 2B, porticos is encouraged. The use of columns, porches, and porticos is encouraged. That's a really
It's the use
nitpicky
that
one. It's the
is,
use
yeah.
that is, not the
Yep.
things that are.
What are we doing here?
It's just a grammar on,
Yeah.
it's just grammar on.
2B?
Yep.
To be is encouraged, not are encouraged at the end of that. I
and
had a
then-
question on D.
I have one on C.
Oh, you go first.
Just to say that this is like a flat-out prohibition, and I'm wondering if we want to soften it at all by
Yeah.
saying like only facing the, sorry, C, so on page 10, 2C, so blank facades. It just says they are not permitted. And I wonder if it's like only on public facing, right? Like what if the backside of the building
Yeah.
has a 30-foot?
Well, we got into this in C1 about the sides of buildings. I think we said they had to have windows, right?
So it does say interior uses which require, like windowless space should be contained.
Oh, is it also true that if it's not visible from
Yeah,
the
if it's
public
not
right of way?
visible, we
Okay,
wouldn't
sorry,
break
I
it.
forgot that.
Okay, so that already this only applies to things that are visible from the public right of way. All right.
Apologies.
Good. Then D. So my question about D is is one enough? Roof design shall include one, and there is another place where you ask for 3. It's on section 7, section 7, 1A.
You're on 2D?
I'm on 2D.
Okay.
In 2D, it has to do with the roof design shall include one or more architectural elements such as cornices, parapets, gables, trim, pediments, overhanging eaves, brackets, and molding. So I don't know what.
I think the one came from the board, so
I'm
we're
pretty
questioning
sure,
it.
but my question, I mean, I just thought about it. You put a parapet and you call it done. Is that I mean, this is where I want Ford Reiki to weigh in.
Well, we can punt it and,
We can punt it and call his attention to it, but I think one might not be enough if it's a parapet. I mean, maybe any of the others might be one enough, but I thought about it and thought, that's not what we meant.
yeah, I mean, I think in general, I think the danger of this type of requirement is that you get somebody who just says, all right, I need one of these, I need one of those, and one of those, and here you go, it's gonna get approved, and it's just not really like a coherent design. Obviously, that's not an easy nut to crack, we've been talking about it forever, and trying to come up with a way to put the right limits in place. I confess to having zero.
I mean, if we call attention to this and circle it and say, this one we want to discuss with the project review board,
Yep,
but
yep,
I want them to be happy with it.
yep.
And I like the fact that somebody can do, in a way, do that.
Right.
You told me I had to do this, and I did, and now give me my permit. That's the way it
Yeah.
should be.
Right. What would be nice is if there were also a way to say, and do a good job.
Right,
Have
right.
that be a clear standard.
Well, but that is that's
the
the,
challenge,
that's
yeah.
the thing you can drive a truck through.
Right. So, yeah, so I don't really have a clear
All
answer to that.
On that same provision where it says requires a break in the roof line to mitigate building mass, is that to mitigate the appearance of building mass?
Yes,
You want to put the word appearance in? Yeah.
I think so. You're reading Ford's mind on that one, he brought that one up too. In exactly the same wording, appearance of building mass.
I thought it would defy the laws of physics to imply otherwise.
Yep. I feel like I probably had something to do with this, dormers shall not occupy more than half the width of the roof, and I'm sort of second guessing myself.
Looking at that picture, which,
Looking at that picture, which I'm
pretty sure that's at
pretty
least
sure
half.
that dormer is and if it's not, it's problematic, at least to me, in other ways.
Can we just delete it?
So, well, I have an alternative proposal, which is to say a dormer must have some number of feet of primary roof pitch before the dormer wall starts. So that you can't have a dormer that's like, you can't just like put a piece of trim on the side and have it be a fake dormer. You need to actually have the primary roof pitch defined before your dormer begins, which I think is basically what this is getting at. It's just a more flexible standard. Does that make sense to people?
I'm sorry, can you say that again?
So like, rather than saying you can have a dormer anywhere on the roof, but it can't be more than half the width of the total roof,
Yep.
it's saying your dormer has to be set in from the edges of your roof by, not that much, but a couple feet, enough to sort of give the roof, the primary roof some
10%
definition.
of the,
Yeah, I think it could even be absolute. It
Yeah.
could even
it could be
like
absolute
3 feet.
3
Yeah,
feet.
or 2 feet or something like that.
And that's just an aesthetic preference, right?
It's an aesthetic preference. It's kind of a way of, yeah. There's a whole, somebody wrote years ago, actually a relatively local guy, wrote a really good article in a trade magazine that I read about dormer design. And he had all of these, and I think it's probably too complicated to like codify it all in this document, but he had all these rules about like, you know, if you're building this type of dormer, it should be set down from the peak by this much, and don't do this, and have your windows look like that. And it was really, and so that, but that's like, if I had to pick one thing, that might be the one thing. And there are others, but I don't want to be here all night, so I get too ridiculous about it. So that, but that's one that I think.
Does that have any kind of historical precedent, or is that just something we're doing now?
This is in the non-conforming area, I will remind.
Yeah, I think it's more like just general
Okay.
decent building, good building design. Again, happy to discuss it with the project review board or architects or people who know more
This is
than I do.
another one maybe to circle, this is
Yeah.
really an aesthetic thing.
And actually, you know, the other reason I think that this is actually more, I want to loosen it up and change it. There's a really nice old building right in downtown Freeport that has a nice looking old dormer that occupies like probably 80% of the roof.
And you realize it's
And I realize
just
it's not the overall percentage, it's a
It's the
lot
scale,
of
the
other
proportion of
things.
it, how it's
this-
placed.
Yeah. And this one, actually, in this picture, to me, even if it were only 50% or 49% or whatever, like, the windows are way too tall.
Yep,
and
everything's
and
out of
the pitch
proportion.
is too flat, and it's got, and I understand, like, there are interior reasons to do that, to maximize head
The
height
trim
and
doesn't
everything.
even match.
Yeah, so it's like,
Not that it has to, but, you
yeah,
know.
I mean, I get why people build dormers in all kinds of ways, and I'm not knocking it particularly, it's just that if we're gonna talk about it.
So can I get language from you on that,
Yeah.
kind of summing up, since I think it seemed like most people were okay with the general idea? And then, going along with that, do we want to get rid of or replace that picture as well? So
Yes, I would say 100% yes on
We
that.
couldn't have some pictures of some good dormers.
Yeah, we want some good.
There's actually so the house, the picture next to it on the left, figure 2,
Yep.
is the building right next to me. So
Yeah.
I know that a lot about that building visually. There is a nice looking new dormer on the back side of that building that we could include.
Can I go back to C, actually, and ask sort of an overarching question? So do we assume with all of these provisions, like dormers included, for example, that it applies only to the public-facing side? So we've stated that
Well,
categorically.
it's not just the public-facing side, it wouldn't apply if it's not visible.
Visible from
So-
the public right of way.
So, like, you
The
could-
side of the building would apply if you're walking down the street and
Well,
you
and
see.
sometimes there are, if there's the house is along this street, but there's a street back here, you might be able to see into the back of the house, so the standards would still apply, but.
Okay, thanks.
But if it's boxed in on all 4 sides, and it's the only building,
Yeah.
something like that, yeah.
Only if nobody can see it, you can do what you want.
And I mean, with new buildings, like when the new, larger projects go to the project review board, right? I mean, no one really presents the application as, well, you can't see this one section of this one facade, so we're just going to completely throw out our cohesive building design for this
Right.
one part of the
Never seen
facade.
such a thing. right.
I mean, generally, it all matches the same part of the building that's being reviewed, so that never really comes up as a question. It would be more so for the additions and alterations to existing buildings
Well,
where,
the blank wall is a
Yeah.
good place where you might do that.
Right, the details might be the same, but you might not have any windows or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Okay, thank you for that. I assume that's in the applicability section somewhere. I will look
Yep.
for that. Yeah, perfect.
We'll double check.
I'll,
Yeah.
no, thank you.
Next. Who's got something next?
Yeah, I think we finally get to my page 11.
Oh, yeah, we're on your page
I
11.
have nothing on page 11, Wayne, so it is all you.
Wayne's got the floor.
So I just didn't understand what 3A was getting at.
Okay,
do
so so I worked on a house a while ago that had within one facade, or within one side of the building, 4 different types of siding. And I think you could have made an argument that the changes were related to the window layout, sort of. But basically, it was like, this part's metal, and then there's just a transition strip, and then next to it, there's wood, and then above it, there's cement siding. It was like a patchwork,
Would
and it was
that
going
be-
for a modern
Okay.
But would changes in form, facade, or architectural elements, wouldn't that trim board answer the question, solve it?
I think that is what this is, that scenario is what this is getting at, is basically saying, in the middle of your wall, you can't just change from cement siding to
So, I mean, if you have if the building does that, then
Yeah.
it makes sense to do that.
But I think maybe what I'm getting hung up on is the phrase, not related to. You mean not compatible with, or not,
No, it's trying to say, changes in material have to happen, it can only happen when you have a change in form or facade, but I don't know that this is clear what this means.
I mean,
What if it just said-
what if there was damage and you wanted to change the material, but it's, aesthetically perfectly fine with regard to the rest of the building? I mean, this kind of says that, I don't understand what not related to means.
so if you can have a different material on the front facade versus the side facade, or you can have a different material for an overhang on the front facade versus the siding of the front facade. Or, if the first floor of a multifamily building is, recessed a little bit, then that could be a different material than the second floor that overhangs it, even if it's on the same facade. I think that's what it's,
Are they consistent with? I mean, again, I'm getting, related to just seems too imprecise.
Yeah. What if you said changes in material must follow changes in form, facade, or architectural elements?
Yeah, that's what I
Take
think.
out the not acceptable part and make it a positive statement rather
Right.
than a negative one.
Must follow. Does that work for you?
Yeah, I guess that would help.
But I still think a trim board would do that. And
Yeah, it's not a particularly.
it's just
strong
not
statement.
elegant. I mean, it's another one to
But I
sort of.
think, to play devil's advocate, maybe, like, if somebody came in with there's no such thing as objectively bad design, I guess, but if somebody came in with a proposal that 6 of the 7 members of the PRB said, we really don't like that, and the thing that we're getting hung up on is the fact that you've gone from, I don't know, diagonal laid something to horizontal something right next to each other, and it looks terrible, and we all think it looks terrible, and we think it violates this. That's the sort of
Right.
thing, that's kind of why we have this whole document, is to be able to say, like,
No to something
6 of the
bad.
7 people, or whatever percentage,
only
don't
takes
like it.
4 of
And
the
it
7,
takes,
but
yeah, right.
yeah.
And it takes, and they could make a finding that says you violate whatever 3A of, so. Okay.
if someone has a great photo, maybe that's useful.
That's a good use for a photo.
To,
Can you have it, can some of the photos be what's not acceptable? Or do you only want it?
Bad house
I
and
think
good
we
house?
didn't want to use a real life example of
something
showing
bad,
something
yeah.
that's like a
From this
negative.
town, or could it be like from somewhere else?
I don't know. I think we could talk about it. Yes, I have thought. Yeah.
ChatGPT, draw one up for you.
Oh, right. That's the way.
I mean, I have plenty of,
So I would say we have had experience, whether you're showing someone's private residence in a good way or a bad way, they don't always want that. We have, in another document, used houses in Freeport in a complimentary way, as a, we want to see this, and the resident was not happy. So we try to be cautious or get their approval. So I definitely would not want to show, we do not want your house.
Don't do this.
Don't do this, unless you guys want to volunteer yours.
Well, it could be a drawing of a house without being a real house.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yep.
ChatGPT.
I do think when it comes to drawings, that's going to be more difficult to get more of than photos at this point.
Yeah, drawings at this point are gonna be hard because we don't really have budget for additional drawings unless they have some that they can repurpose. But I like showing what you do want. I think that's a better, more consistent
Okay.
approach throughout.
we could take a picture of a building that does have changes in materials that follow architectural features and just say, this is why these changes in materials follow architectural features, like, yeah, okay.
All right. Page 12.
Page 12, Kyle highlighted number 5.
This is the asphalt thing. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, so there's the fence standard and the walkway standard. Happy to
Fence standard's
change.
fine. The walkway is the one where we decided that asphalt
Yeah.
may be used for walkway. I would
Yeah,
just
and
say
then come up
asphalt
with-
may be used for walkways, period.
Yeah, I mean, I can add it in, well, I can either add it into the list, or someone brought up encouraging the other materials, but, so I can try to come up with some language around that as well. That's not too loose.
But we do or don't want, we want asphalt, right?
Yep.
Yeah, we're saying it's okay.
yep. Yeah, we talked about this one
Yeah.
at some length earlier, so
So we're good with that.
we're good.
What are we doing, just taking out the last bit of that sentence?
Yeah, I'll just
Asphalt may be
delete
used
the
for
second
walkways.
half.
I think
Yeah.
that-
There we go.
Yeah. Well, do you want, I guess, a clarification there? that,
Walkways
like,
of
yeah,
5 feet or
walk-
less or something like,
Yeah, beyond a certain width, it's not a walkway, so
Right,
therefore you shouldn't be just using asphalt for these large kind of areas, unless it's a parking lot.
Yep. All right,
Okay.
page 13. Hearing none.
So my highlighted header was just to clarify that this also applied to additions and alterations. We talked about this the last time we
Yep.
talked about this, so.
Yep. I think that's good.
This was just, the only thing here is the comment I made previously about just making it clear that these layer on top of.
Yep. Yeah, I'll add
That's my
a
only
little blurb onto the header.
And this is where I noticed there are 3 or more. I mean, this is another one, this 1A that I'd circle. I mean, there's specific parts that the project review board needs to see. A lot of this stuff is how it works, and they won't care that much. But, is 3 or more, does that get them what they need?
I wonder about on these figures, like, do we want to list out the elements that each of these has that would qualify? Or is that not worth doing? Like this store on the left has side lights, and it has
Overhanging roof line.
recesses, or it has a projection, it has a
So I think
cornice and-
originally, the figure for like text, like those little blurbs under the photos had more details when the consultant first sent over a draft, but then it felt like in a lot of cases it was duplicating the standard and just making it too busy,
Dense,
so we toned it back.
Okay.
But I mean, we can also add in, I guess, little text labels on the images
Yeah, I mean,
themselves.
why not have captions that say?
I think a caption would be helpful.
Like
If
if
it
it
said
was
like,
caption in italic type right underneath the thing and says,
door with side lights and decorative surround, or something like that.
yeah, something that, what you see in the picture that is relevant. I do like the way it's starting to look, though, so I
Yep.
liked you moving it sideways and trying to make it an easy-to-look-at document.
Yep.
I like the rest of this. I would just, if there's a way to repeat my broken record window thing about the physical bars here and make that apply to anywhere we're talking about windows with divided lights, I would advocate for that. I don't need to be the one that decides how it goes in here necessarily in the most efficient way, but I would like to see it in there.
Just real quickly with figure 5, if it's possible to obscure the business logo. I can see the business logo in that picture. I don't know if you can just black that out. The red, you
Yeah.
can see the sign.
Is it Under Armour?
It's Under Armour, yeah.
Republic is.
I was gonna just say I loved page 14, because it was so full of specificity.
14, okay, yep. I mean, that's gonna be the most high profile, right, like biggest projects that come forward, most, so.
All right. Are we on 15?
Yeah, we already talked about this, though, unless somebody has other stuff.
Oh, new sideline provide.
So I was gonna add examples of what
Oh, I had-
paved includes.
Something really stupid, which is on the bicycle parking 2D.
Yep.
So what are the rules about see where it says when provided, bicycle parking when provided?
Yeah, so we talked about this originally in that this ordinance wasn't going to require bike parking. It was more a design provision if people wanted to provide bicycle parking. That maybe one day we get to the point in the zoning ordinance in our off-street parking section where we have some requirement like, X percentage of your off-street parking can be met through bicycle parking or something like that.
Well, I didn't understand about the proximate to the main building. I didn't know, first of all, I didn't know what the word proximate meant. And,
It's near the entrance.
but I know, but define, and why we don't even require bicycle parking, but now suddenly you have to put it near the front door. Why is it Why can't it be near the back door?
Well, it's a design
It's a-
choice for,
I think it's-
you're accessing the business or the storefront or whatever it is off of the primary facade. So you want the bike parking close
Oh,
by
because it's
to
not-
the
it's for-
front-facing
it's for
entrance.
Customers, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's more, I think it's kind of, it's a placemaking thing. And so that's what, like, it doesn't have to be provided, but if it's provided as, doesn't it
And
kind of tick
over
a box
time,
for-
we'll
Right.
build
The
more and
design
more
should
in the-
be
all right.
following like best practice and,
Never mind.
and like the 2 points of contact is just kind of a best practice for bike
Yes.
walking and
Yes,
all that.
yes.
But in a multifamily building, I mean, if they have a bike storage room inside the building, I mean, that would be totally fine too. Like,
I don't really have anything.
I don't have too
A lot of
much
this
else.
stuff,
16, I didn't know whether placemaking needed to be in quotes. It seemed kind of like,
I think we define placemaking.
oh, if it's
Yeah.
defined in your
Yeah, it's
definitions?
Defined term, yeah.
Oh, good, then never mind. I presume all this stuff on 19 is cool? There's a lot of standards of trees on 19, and I don't know if they're reasonable or not.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody's got something before 19, but I just noticed all this stuff and thought, I hope that's okay.
Yeah, this is all over my head. But
Yeah.
it seems reasonable.
It's
and I
large
Well,
trust.
this is stuff that the project review board gets into.
Yeah.
So once again, this is.
And this is, I mean, again, this is, section 7, so this is the newer, bigger project. So typically, when these projects come forward, someone is using a landscape architect who's going to be fairly well-versed in these things.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, is 2.5 too big, too small, or just right? Is that the right number? Who said 2.5?
I think,
Somebody
I mean,
with
that-
professional experience, hopefully.
so, our consultant was working with a landscape architect.
To do this, okay. Just circle it for the project review board to please.
I think we also have similar, I can see what we have in the village overlay district, but I think it might be
I mean, some
fairly
of that may,
consistent with.
that may be something to look at as we,
Yeah, does it match
That's one of
anything?
our
I
next
just have no
projects, right?
idea. I don't know
That's
if
something I
any
want to
of us
bring up
know.
at the end of here.
what do we do with that
Yeah.
document? Yeah.
So we're on page 18? Is that what
I'm
we're
on
on?
page 19, where it, 19B.
How many trees you're gonna
6, and all these sizes of trees, and
Yeah,
they
I'd-
seem okay, but I just don't know. Somebody might say, that's crazy, that's too big, or that's too small.
I'm still on the 4 there, Roman numeral, whatever it is, 3 there.
Okay, on 18?
Yeah, on 18, I just don't understand why we can't have grass. It has to be used sparingly. I mean, what's wrong with grass? Beans has got a ton of it up there,
That's true,
you know? I mean,
but it's also not visible from, well, I guess it probably is visible.
Why do we
from some
care,
people.
though?
why do we care?
I think it's,
I know I know, they probably won't be planting all grass, but I just don't understand why we haven't.
I think it's to
Key
provide
Bank
year-round
has a big
interest.
turf, right?
Yeah, I don't know
all
if we want
grass
to use
out
that.
front.
No, I don't want, but I mean,
I just,
Used to be nice trees there years
yeah.
ago.
I mean, we
would
just
say
went
years ago.
through this a little bit with section 527, right? Where we kind of said some grass is okay, but not all, it shouldn't be all grass.
Well, let's say that, you know, but
Yeah.
it says use sparingly in landscapes. That's like, oh yeah, a little piece
So
over
I
here.
think the idea is that the planting standards there in 4 are going to be primarily for either, like you have the trees planted along the sidewalks on the, street sides. But like in 3, when we were just talking about placemaking, it talks about, for each building with a footprint of 1,000 square feet or greater, the building entrance or front setback shall use, a couple of these placemaking features, like planting beds, raised planters, other forms of green space. So those planning standards in 4, I think, are speaking more towards those areas and saying if you're, around your entrances, you're going to have more of the shrubs and native plants and things like that and limit the grass. If there are other areas on the site, around parking areas or things like that, I think those would be fine.
I mean, it does say, like, so if we were, I mean, sort of like the thought experiment of what would happen if Bean came and tried to get their lawn up there approved, they would say, well, this is an appropriate application because it's an active space, like an athletic field or a play area, or in that case, like a gathering space. Like, it wouldn't make sense to have, shrubs, because they'd all get trampled at every Friday night concert.
Couldn't have a concert.
So I think, I think that's the sort of, there is enough flexibility in here to allow for.
Yeah, I just,
Like, it specifically calls out there at the end, right, where turf grass might have traditionally been used in parking lot islands, perennials or shrubs shall be used instead. Because the whole idea there is, like, you want the islands in the parking area to break up the kind of sea of pavement there. So using,
That 3-inch tall grass doesn't.
right, the grass isn't going to do it, where the grass might be totally fine, right? Yeah, if it's more of like a recreational or
yeah,
gathering
nobody
space.
does that anyways. Nobody puts grass on an island. They just dump mulch on there and stick some trees in. So, I'm just thinking of, I don't know. I don't have anything against plantings, but I'm amazed to drive by and just see these,
I mean, this could be the
I
one
just
where.
think sometimes less is more when we have, the whole front of these buildings are covered in shrubs. It's just my personal beef, but, I mean, I look at Royal River down there, and they got a beautiful front lawn out there, and they got some bark mulch around the island. They got a few flowers out there, and it looks great, but would they pass today? Would they have to have more shrubs? Have they got too much grass?
Heat pumps? We're talking Royal River heat pumps?
No, Royal River's food store.
The food
Oh, the
store,
food, yeah.
and so it's outside the district, but would that be
Yeah, but I'm just
okay?
saying, we had this argument I made this comment last night at town hall, at the council meeting, that, there's a motel down there, and next to me, and they had 800 feet of lawn out front, and it looked great. I mean, sometimes less is more. They had some matching trees, they had some matching shrubs, and, and some plantings out there. But today, would the whole thing have to be covered in bushes? This is what we brought up.
We did loosen that standard, I think, quite a
Yeah,
bit.
we did, and that was part of the discussion last night. Is it too loose?
So say you don't have to do any plantings out front in here. If you go back to 3, right, your front setback area can be used for artwork, shade structures,
But that's still something.
outdoor seating, things like.
But it just can't be grass.
Well, yeah, I think it could be.
Well, the only place it's
Have to argue for it.
prescriptive against grass is in parking lot islands. Otherwise, it just says sparingly, which doesn't sound very enforceable to me.
Yeah, I think it provides a fair bit of flexibility.
Just my personal beef, that's all, Every time I see the word sparingly or something like this, okay, who's defining sparingly? Okay, I got 50 feet, you want 25. I mean, which is it?
Yeah.
Most of these guys just want to have a decisive rule, I suppose, and just say, okay, how much grass can I have? I'll do it, but, I just have this thing of building a beautiful building, and we fuss all about the stuff about the building, then we cover it all up with bushes and trees.
Well, it is subjective until you get to parking lot islands. That's the only place where it
Yeah.
isn't,
Yeah.
which I think is a little bit odd. Because, I mean, how big an issue are parking lot islands? Is that a major subject area?
I think it's, yeah, it is, it's
Ordinances
just like,
regulate it more than others, and we don't have any provision in zoning that, but a lot do. Oftentimes it's like a stormwater thing and like a pedestrian kind of connection thing to break up parking lots more. Like, I mean, you look at like Dell being like the office, their parking lot, like they use it. A lot of ordinances might require something like that for any parking lot.
right, I mean, yeah, it'll take a few years for it to grow in and really be, but it definitely helps to break up the big parking lot expanse, so. Yeah, I mean, I think the sparingly thing we can flag with the PRB.
Yep.
All right, I'm pretty satisfied, at least
Nothing
with,
else in
yeah.
this document except
Section,
marks.
section 8, I think there's a couple areas here where we might be able,
Oh, yeah.
to add like a little bit more flexibility. And this, again, I think, was it 8.1B that Ford made some comment? Let me see if I can find his comment that I thought was a good one about, yeah, 8.1B. If there are historical photos of missing architectural feature, but the applicant wants a different style that's still historically appropriate. So you say, all right, sure, there's a photo of my front porch from 1920, and it looked like that, but I don't really like that. I want to build it this other way that was common on houses of a similar period. Why can't I just build it that way?
You ought to be able to.
Right. And I think that's where this 8.1B might be worded a little bit more strongly than.
Yeah, it's saying you can only do
You can
that
only do that.
if the photos can't be found.
Right.
Like,
So-
it's saying you can replace them with features of a style
Right.
of another building of that time, but only if,
That's where you get.
So why not just go right from should be accurately duplicated or replaced with features appropriate to the style?
Yep.
yeah, so just kind of delete the,
Yeah, I mean, I think if we had a true historic preservation document,
Yeah,
and,
if
and
you
and
had
in the
it-
future, if somebody says, hey, there's these 6 buildings in town that we really want to preserve,
Correct.
that's where that would be appropriate, is saying, like, you cannot change that beautiful transom window or
But
whatever
we
it is, you
don't
know?
have that.
But we don't have that, and so I would probably,
And if we did have it, it shouldn't just be
A
in
blanket.
downtown.
Yeah.
Because the historic buildings that most need to be preserved are
right.
all over.
Yeah, I'm thinking, like, if somebody wants me to put shutters back on my house, like, I don't want to do that. I want to maintain shutters.
so I'll have it read, the features should be accurately duplicated based on historical or physical evidence or replaced with features appropriate to the style of the building, using examples of other contributing buildings.
Correct.
I mean, there's these couple places here where I added in placeholders for additional photos, where I just thought the section could warrant something. I mean, that's things, if the board has photos that they think would be good, or, you know, we can go out and get some more. But there were a couple sections that just didn't have any photo reference at all. Anything else?
Figure 10 also has a logo.
Yeah, do we care?
What was that?
There's
Figure 10 has a logo in it as well.
Oh, figure 10.
quite a bunch of logos that are visible. I don't know if that's the thing we don't, if we clearly don't want.
I don't know what the general approach is on that. I think if you can obscure a trademark logo, it might make things
Be better.
easier. I don't know that it's officially not allowed, but I don't know.
Computer technology now is probably easy enough to take that circle and just make it
Right.
Just make it black, if you can, if it's possible to do
You've
that.
got Banana
green,
You've
color
got
match green.
Starbucks,
Yeah,
you've got,
yeah, totally.
I mean, there's quite a few peppered throughout
Yeah,
here.
here's another one.
Starbucks, Banana Republic.
Yeah, Banana
Yeah.
Republic
I don't
is
have-
very
I don't have a
clear.
problem with it. It's stuff that's been here for.
Yeah,
years.
Starbucks, we know.
Freeport Community Center. We got-
Well,
That's just personally. but-
Community center is different because
It's not a logo. I
Yeah.
highly doubt you'll actually be dealing with any pushback from that, you know, I don't, as a practical matter. But if it's easy to put a dot over it.
Yeah, I mean, in some cases, I can just create a little shape and word and drop it
What?
over
Yes.
it.
Oh, That's super helpful.
Wayne, are you a lawyer?
Yes.
You shouldn't let us sit next to each
No,
other.
it's good, that's good.
And then the only other thing that, on page 23F, I don't know, I totally get what you're trying to do there. I don't know if you can sort of give primacy to the details and materials matching over the compliance with code. I don't know if, I actually don't know if you can.
So which one did you say, 23?
On page 23, it's F, let me get the, so going back to 22, what is it? It's 3, is it section 8, 3F? Increase the depth of porch or adding railing to accommodate code, that it is permitted where the details and materials are matched. If, I'm envisioning a scenario where the material that's matching for some, maybe this doesn't happen, but for some reason, you can't get a matched material that is code compliant. if that's a possible scenario, and I don't know that it is. does
Why
the
don't you
code
say
win out?
appropriate to the existing design instead of
I
now
think
to do-
the intent here,
was to be.
I see what you're saying, and I think it's potentially
Is that even,
adjacent point. The way I see this is like, the purpose is to say that you can't, nobody could make an argument that says, you can't make that wider because it wasn't wider in the historical photo.
Yeah.
Or because it wasn't, or because it's not nobody would have built a whatever ramp to their house in 1840, like.
Yeah.
So, because it's required by code, you have to be able to do it, and then it's trying to say, but if you're gonna do it, you should match the materials, and that's where I see, yeah.
I don't know if I'm only concerned about that if that becomes an issue as a practical matter, but for example, if the covering on something would have been copper historically, but for some reason you can't get like an ADA compliant doorknob, that's the only thing that I'm imagining, then you might have to give primacy to the code or accessibility issue. And technically, the way I read that, it seems to give primacy to the details and materials.
We could
match.
add in a, to the greatest extent.
Yeah, I was just
Yeah.
gonna say, you could say where details and materials are consistent to the existing design to the greatest extent practicable.
Yeah, I think that would do it. Thank you.
I'm confused about G, honestly. Why did the handrails have to be mounted into the ground?
I think to
Is that a safety thing?
protect the steps from being,
Drilled?
yeah.
Where are you?
Yep.
Good. Anything
Why is
else?
that?
Yeah, why do we care?
Yeah, as long as they're mounted properly.
Yeah, I'm honestly not sure.
That makes sense to me.
I think it's potentially like.
I think it's like, the steps without the railing might have been the historical, significance or feature there, and then you add railings due to a code issue, and it's like, okay, well, you should impact the feature as little as possible, but, I mean, if we want to
There's also
remove,
like
we can.
one of the sort of, and again, I know it's not a historic preservation document, but one of the sort of guidelines of preservation work is reversibility, right? So like, if you're gonna do something, you should make sure that you can some future person can undo it relatively easily, or like, if you have to cover up an original feature, make it possible to recreate it.
I'm just thinking of somebody put new granite steps in.
I know, that's
Yeah, that's
exactly
kind
what
of, but
went
this
in.
isn't so much concern, like, if you put new granite steps in, I think you could do that.
Can you?
Yeah, this is only for contributing.
Well, but
But if you did
But
new,
what if you put in new steps? And they didn't have granite steps before.
He didn't have granite steps, he calls up Swenson and wants some fancy new granite steps.
Right.
what if we add the word existing? If handrails must be added to existing granite steps,
When in doubt, leave it out.
fair enough.
That's not what's fighting about.
It does still leave room for the handrails to be added.
Yeah, because of the whenever possible.
Yeah.
Yes, that's true. Right, and you could say, well, I can't mount it into the ground because I'd have to drill down and it's gonna be
It
really
doesn't meet-
difficult and move around.
It doesn't
yeah.
meet code and,
Yep.
So we've gone by a lot of the photos here. Were there any kind of specific extra places where people thought more photos would be warranted or photos should be changed out?
I really do think it would be helpful if the photos had captions about what we're supposed to be looking at.
Yeah.
Do you want that,
An
like
example
labels
of-
overlaid on the photo or expanded little blurbs under the photo?
I think you want expanded little
Yep.
captions.
Yeah.
And I mean, you have room, your text doesn't have to be as big as it is right now.
Yep.
And sort of in the same typeface that you've got now, where it says figure 12 or figure 11, light and italic and small, but.
Yep.
I mean, you do that exactly on page 26.
Right. I think we should increase the speed limit shown there.
What'd you say, Wayne?
I'm just joking. It says speed limit 25.
Okay.
I mean, this is actually probably an example, like, those look like replacement windows to me. Maybe? It's hard to say, actually. I don't know.
Well,
But
I
they
don't know if
definitely
the
have-
picture is an example of what it says it is. I was just looking at a caption that purported to show what you're supposed to look at.
The second story windows more look like replaced, but maybe not. Maybe they're just nice. I don't know. I can't tell. I wonder if B, 6, on the same page, 26, 6B needs that, again, my broken record window comment added about the exterior shadow lines of divided lights. Or if that, does that requirement sort of repeat through this section, even though it's, I don't think it does, right? I think this section is its own thing.
Yeah, it's kind of standalone.
So I would like to see that added, especially there, actually.
The house has got 3 different windows in it. One with 2/1, some with 2/2, and one with
I know that.
1 over.
And they look reflective too, which is not allowed.
I don't know, that's not
But I
permitted.
think that's just the picture, the sunlight. Okay, anything else on this?
Page 30,
Aha,
There's
good.
one-
Great
there's
hit.
a penalty between $100 and $1,000. Are there any criteria that determine the amount?
I'd have to talk to code on that one. I think that's taken from our zoning ordinance to match the language there, so can get more.
Maybe
Detail on that.
maybe in both cases, you should consider some kind of criteria that would give somebody notice about what kind of violation they're liable for.
$1,000 for windows.
I have a couple, actually, sorry to backtrack, just a couple quick notes from Ford here about, on the demolition front,
What page you on?
28, just saying, under procedures, just making it consistent between demolishing and, like, complete and partial demolition. So like 2A talks about demolishing a contributing building, then B mentions demolition or partial demolition. So just trying to take a pass through it, which we don't have to do right now, but just making a pass through it to kind
Oh,
of
shouldn't it
make
be demolished or partially
Yeah.
demolished in both cases?
just
Yeah.
making it clear that, you know, if we're talking about one or the other or both, and it should be consistent through, just so that if
You'd
we're
be
only
talking about
meaning to talk
both.
about, right, but if we're only meaning to talk about one in some case, you know, just making sure that that's.
Yep.
And then I think Ford, and I'll let Ford speak to this one, but I think he may want to put in some, like, a little bit more about negotiation to salvage a building rather than, you know, that, like, that should be made in a good faith effort to salvage a building rather than just like, all right, your 3 months is up, call the excavator.
And the purpose of that would be to,
Just encourage,
but I mean, when you talk about an alternative, mean somebody picked the building up, haul it away, and put it someplace else, or?
yes.
It says that such negotiations may include relocation to a new site.
Yeah, I think just like a strong, he's after like, or he mentions a stronger
Well,
encouragement,
But
but,
the encouragement is you got 3 months to buy the place, and if you don't, then you don't.
yeah.
But I mean, I circle it for discussion with him. I don't know how he,
Yeah, we can talk
because
about it
it
more
isn't,
when we have the group talk.
we don't have a historic preservation law.
Well, that's happened a couple times around town, we've moved buildings.
My house was
Yeah, I was
moved.
going to say,
My house was where the CVS, I live in a house that was where CVS is on Middle
Oh,
Street.
which one? Which house?
My current
Harbor
house.
Ridge Road.
Oh, I know, but there was a bunch of houses in there, there's one up on,
It was on Middle Street, that's all I know, and Mac Collins, you know who he is?
oh, sure, yeah.
Yeah, he's the one who moved it
Oh, yeah.
in 1985.
Yeah, yeah. They moved one up on Route 1 too that was in there.
Oh, well, yeah, across the street from me is somebody whose house was condemned because of the 295. Their house is from the 50s, it's like from the 50s, and so they bought their house for $1, and somehow they got the house.
Yeah, trucked it down the road.
And trucked it down the road. But my house is from 1840, the old part.
You're on Pine Street, right?
It's an oldie.
No, off of Pine on Harbor Ridge.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
If you drive up Harbor,
I've been up there years ago.
yeah.
trying to think
I mean, you sort of see it, because all the houses are built in the 80s except ours.
Yeah.
I think we're,
I think all the houses they moved, I mean, they moved
Okay,
so
so
many.
the map.
in terms of next steps, oh yeah, the map,
The
sorry.
map.
Well, yeah, we want to get to the map and then.
Yep.
Can't we just rationalize the map and be done with it?
So, let me pull it up.
Yeah.
So a lot of this, Carolyn and I took a look at, and we thought there were some things that made a lot of sense. Like, you know, if you look up here where I'm zoomed in now, you know, these like lots on Summer Street where there are C properties partially in, you know, just pulling those back and pulling like, you know, a couple of these house lots out of the district altogether
Why
and
wouldn't
ending
you
it on the
just-
property.
Yeah,
Yep.
follow that line.
And, you know, like this.
And turn the corner at that contributing building and forget the rest of what's down Summer Street. Those buildings behind, you know what I mean, just,
Yeah, so like here, we had a question on like, we were inclined to pull this one out, for example, that Somerset condos.
pull it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, in other words, if you just followed if the line came,
Up Route 1, you're saying?
what?
You're saying come up Route 1?
So we felt that this was a decision greater than staff, so we wanted to bring it to you guys just for feedback, because
Can I get up there, because I sort of, I mean, it seems pretty easy to
Like,
just.
we need a laser pointer for you.
So we were thinking that we would take this out, we would keep these two in, and then over here, we would pull it back to follow the
That's
property line.
right, that's right, that's
zigzag,
right.
go up and over, then
Exactly.
down, up there, and then it's pretty.
Yeah, the rest is pretty good up that way.
Well, yeah, there's a little bit on the other side of the library around,
Yeah, so up
It's a little
in
bit-
North Main Street, we wanted your,
yeah, so right there, why is it behind the lot line?
so like, this is the library, there's no structures in there, so we thought we would take that out. This
Right.
will clean up.
Right,
These were good, like these where they're close to the property line, we were inclined here.
to take it both, what if you took all that property?
So this has a lot of main, so we were gonna just put the back portion in.
Right, and that one,
We put this in, this one, only a teeny tiny portion of the building is in, so we would probably.
take it out,
Pull it out.
right.
This, for example, is a really big lot, and so up in North Main Street, we kind of struggled because at no point in this multi-year conversation have we ever talked on our own about starting to add stuff. So we, for example, like, we're like, ooh, we weren't planning on adding all this land way back there, and so this was a case we wanted to know from you guys. Do we leave this one in as is, even though it's not perfect? Do we take it out, or do we add the whole thing, which then,
What if you draw the corner of the lot, all right, so there's corner of Mallet with, on the north corner of Mallet Drive, there's the red there, which is the Kendall
And the
Inn,
neck, yeah.
right? The next one up from that, right?
That's not Mallet, that's Kendall.
Did I say Mallet? I meant
Yeah.
Kendall, sorry.
Kendall.
Kendall. Kendall Inn, I got that part right at least.
And draw a straight line, right?
And draw a straight line from that corner to the other corner.
Correct, that's what I
It
thought.
goes right through that building, doesn't it? Yeah.
oh, okay, yeah, so just kind of straighten that out.
Yeah, and that's it.
Yep, so keep that in on
So what's that do to his building?
Keep, it
It's a
would take
non-contributing
that one
building.
out, it would keep that little building in.
Yeah, does that split his building?
That's I think that's the Frost nursery.
Yeah, that's the nursery back there, but is there somebody living in the above that barn? or-
No, I don't think it's like, I think it's an
I
accessory
don't know,
by
we can look at
definition.
it though with the
But
aerials.
that lot, if it's
If we-
redeveloped, would
Right, that
most
would-
definitely apply.
Okay, so we can look at that. This
But
is
not
a-
the back 40,
This
you
is
know.
a measurement off of Main Street, that's how we
Yeah.
did that original
Yeah, that's fine.
boundary. And then I think this.
What is that big lot? That's the water company, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we could take that out, or we could leave it. And I can't remember if that's
There's a,
considered contributing or not.
This is C.
there's an old building
It's
down in there,
Oh, it's contributing, yeah.
that old brick building down in there?
No, it's
Oh,
a
you mean
C.
C under the
No,
current?
no, C under current.
C
The
as in
yellow is non-contributing or existing class
Oh,
C.
okay,
Yeah.
got it. So we would take your guidance on that parcel.
I would probably leave it in just in case something happens in the
Leave
future.
it in similar to as is, once we clean up the line.
Right.
Over here is where we really have the biggest question.
Why wouldn't you just follow the back of the property lines?
Well, it's just adding all that
No,
additional.
take it out. See the way the yellow one up in the top right?
So just follow kind of like this.
There,
like-
okay, so just follow that line to the back of the other lots.
I do think there is a lot line here, or there's a structure right here, it's just not showing up on this.
That's Nancy Gray's, Chip Gray's house.
Right, but,
I don't know why that one
it
in
would be
particular did.
only affecting the front of their property.
So we'll just pull it back to like this.
That's what I'm, right,
Okay.
like that.
And then, I can't remember if we had anything done.
Yeah, there is something way down on Bow Street, just something sort of crazy right around Bow Street Market.
It's the park, so
That-
it follows
yeah.
like the contour.
I mean, it doesn't matter, because it'll never be built, so it doesn't matter.
So we could just pull it in to
Just
follow
pull it to the back of the property lines, right,
lines right there.
like that.
Yeah, so that we could leave in or take out, whatever you guys want to do. And then I think over here,
Well-
the school, we were proposing to keep that kind of as is. Because if we put the whole parcel in, which was our goal, it would put all this school in.
No,
Not the
No, this is,
intent.
looks right.
So what's sort of those two long skinny lots there? They can back up around the school, what's in there? Couple houses?
I
Is
think there's just houses.
that where Theo Morrow and them used to live?
Okay, I think so basically, it sounds like you guys did align pretty much where we landed.
Yeah.
With a little more cleanup.
Yeah.
Okay,
So we just wanted to get feedback on, so this is the existing map, the colors, shown here are using the kind of legend for the existing Class A, B, C system. The next step with this would be to get the updated map with the contributing, non-contributing. We can adjust those couple of places with the boundary lines, and then once that's done, then it'll be ready for kind of to be added in as an appendix to the actual ordinance language and to be all one document.
and
So,
then the map and the standards presented follow the existing boundaries of current design review 1 and 2. It did not pull in the other parcels that are in the overlay, but not design review today.
Yeah, so that kind of gets to the next steps. So a couple of things we touched on is, one, inviting the PRB to look at it. We can do that at the June Planning Board meeting. We can invite them there. We can have the updated map. We can have the updated text and graphics that we just talked about. But then, yeah, one of the other things we talked about previously was, in combination with all this, looking at the village overlay, as there's a lot of overlap there, but the village overlay district expands beyond design review. Do we want to go through an exercise of looking at the overlay at all with the idea that we could potentially recommend getting rid of that ordinance, but taking a look at it to see if there are specific standards in there, if we are going to get rid of it, that should be brought into design review or zoning? Or do we want to hold off on, finish up design review, leave the overlay as is for now, and then come back at a later date?
if we could do away with a lot of the overlay by just adding some stuff in here, I think we'd be
I would
better
love
off.
to get rid of the overlay if that's
Yeah.
possible.
I mean, it's
That
just-
was the original intent. The original
Yeah.
intent was that we would take I don't know why we chose to put setbacks in the overlay. So the original intent was that we would take the setbacks and put them in zoning, and that
I
the
thought we
other.
discussed this with North Star at the
Yeah,
beginning.
we did.
We talked about it, but I just wanted
We're supposed to have
to.
done this.
That was pre-Kyle and very early on, so we felt like it was fair to revisit it because we've seen some projects here. So we've been using them a little bit more, so I think that's why we wanted the feedback from you guys.
Well, I mean, I haven't looked at it.
Well, so that was what I.
in there?
Well,
What's in there?
that's why I think we should take, if we are going to do that, we should take probably a meeting where people can actually read through the overlay language ahead of the meeting, and then we can have a conversation. Are there things that people think, like the setback standard, should be added to the zoning? Are there any of the other more design criteria around the architectural pieces that should be added to design review? That probably warrants a conversation.
Yeah, I mean,
Certainly does.
it would be great to, I'm trying to think what the most efficient way to do that is, because I think, obviously, we want to add stuff to design review, it'd be better to do it now.
Now.
Like,
That's right.
before like, have that ready to go at the next meeting even, to try to, so, but I think there's a lot, like, to me, a lot of the stuff that's the best in the village overlay is the setback stuff. And then a lot of the things, I mean, there's some bad planting stuff, I think, in there.
Yeah, the plantings have like a bunch of,
Yeah, a bunch of like invasive species and
Yeah.
stuff, so it'd be great to get rid of that, I think, and defer to that. And then there's some architectural stuff in there that I think we did kind of incorporate.
Yeah, so the general layout of the overlay, right, is you have some architectural, more building feature stuff in early on that applies to like everything, residential properties, bigger projects. Then you get into some landscaping provisions, like screening, buffering type things that apply to like subdivisions and site plan projects. Then after that, you have some street design standards designed around like adding walkability and street trees and bike lanes and things like that for subdivisions that are building new roads. So a lot of that, if we did take some of those standards, wouldn't go into design review probably.
Then we go into the zoning.
Yeah. Or subdivision ordinance or something like that. But yeah, and I think a lot of the building design standards are generally covered in design review, but.
So I can't believe how long this has taken. It's 2 years. And, but it's dumb to put this ordinance in place and leave that and not have looked at it and seen whether we can do away with it or put it in here or put it elsewhere.
Do we just,
That would
do
be-
we make it a homework assignment to just?
Yeah,
read
that's
through?
why I think if people could, it's not a terribly long ordinance as far as ordinances go, if people could look through it.
I mean, we also have to think about, I mean, do you have a map of that? This
It's,
village overlay, what does it cover?
It's not the
covers
VC
pretty
one,
much all of the village districts.
except the
So,
VC one.
yeah, except.
yeah,
the VC.
overlaps with the design review in many cases.
So, yeah, it
Well, I'm trying
basically
to figure out
covers,
what is included, what properties are included in that but aren't included in this?
there's a lot of like Village One.
And do we care
areas.
about those standards in those places?
Yeah, so Village One's a good example. It kind of surrounds the downtown. I don't know if I have my.
So, I mean, you can see like these areas at the end of like Summer Street and Holbrook and Elm Street that aren't in design review, those are going to be in the overlay. And then I think, maybe some of the areas over here as well. But it's kind of
I
these.
wonder what you're asking of them and why we care.
Yeah, it goes, like, the village overlay district goes much further down.
So the project up on Elm Street,
It goes further up Bow. I think it goes,
would that be in the overlay?
So, yeah.
The project that just happened, went through on Elm Street?
yeah, they
How
were,
did the overlay district affect them? That's just a recent
they
one.
had to meet certain design standards for their building.
Okay.
Like, it speaks to certain things, like you can't put your garage in front of your,
Yeah, the garage, so we have the standard in design review, right? Or where we're encouraging sheds and things to be, behind. There's a specific standard in the overlay that says your garage has to be set back 4 feet from the front building facade.
and actually, that is one, because when they came for their conceptual review, didn't they have the garage in front of the house?
It came up at the.
Yeah, and it had to get
Yeah.
pushed back. So there's actually a case, maybe the only one I know of, where the
So
Freeport
this is
Village Overlay
exactly the
District
point, though.
did a thing.
We've had a handful, a lot of, for that too, it's been like new single families, like, sorry, you can't have your garage like that.
But if there are standards like that, that would apply basically just in the Village One outside of design review, do you just want to take those one or two standards
Put it in
and put
Village
them in
One.
the Village One zoning ordinance district section?
There you go.
So that's
People
why,
don't have to look in two places. That's-
Oh, I think getting rid of the overlay district would be a big win. I think it's just that, yeah, then is it a little bit of a tricky like, is it weird to start putting those kinds of
But I-
standards
I-
in?
That's the overlay.
I do think though, and Caroline can correct me if I'm wrong here, but if we were going to do that, then if we're looking at repealing the overlay,
Sorry, I just
then
realized.
we'd want to notify that whole district as well. So you're,
Well, but you wouldn't, you'd be repealing it at the same time that you add these standards to these other places.
Right,
Ideally,
but-
I don't know if we're gonna get that.
but are you going to add every single standard and then that?
No, you're
right,
gonna repeal it and add the following, these specific
Right,
things.
so my point is that that's going to open up a public input process that goes beyond the scope of design review. So there is a little bit of a trade-off there
So,
that could.
I just sent you an older map that you could pull up just to show.
Yeah, I just looked at a map that.
Okay, the
sort of shows
difference.
it.
Yeah, I think if you want to take I mean, that was always the intent, that's kind of how we incorporated it, and then we tried to incorporate some things from the downtown vision into this new ordinance.
Yeah.
I think we could share a version of the overlay and give you some staff suggestions, like road standards in subdivision, if it's something we want to keep, we could put in subdivision. When we first created the overlay, it was when we created the districts down near Bow Street Market, where we thought it was really going to be like a, kind of like a mixed-use, really walkable district, and it was going to build out differently. There was a lot of feeling and emotion when those were first created. People wanted protections if there were going to be commercial uses. I don't know what the feelings of the neighborhood are going to be, so I don't know what you'll get for public comment. But if you're going to have a workshop with the PRB that night, I almost wonder if you need if you're better to have like a separate policy conversation workshop on this, even if it's like a shorter 1-hour meeting, because like to Kyle's point, if you notify or if people come out, you could have a room full, and if you really just want to, kind of dig in and.
Can
go
we do
through
a
it.
workshop even before that? Could we have another meeting and get that done? I mean, I just,
Tight
feel like
timeline
we-
right now,
yeah,
unfortunately.
I don't know, maybe everyone
well,
should
you
look
have
at
your
it.
staff.
and
Yeah, I
then-
mean, we're not going to be able to put together much.
Yeah.
Just for reference, if you go to the ordinance page on the website, 21.1 is the overlay district. And that, there's this map at the top, and then it gets into the sections. And this is what I was talking about, it kind of breaks it down. Section 1 is the setback standards. Section 2 is the more building design standards. And then it gets into Section 3 is landscaping.
Does this also suggest that we make the review, the design ordinance on a bigger area? Like all the way down Elm, all the way down Kendall?
It's not on a bigger area based upon when we had a workshop with North Star early on. We decided to stick to the design review boundaries and not extend more standards out. Can't
Yeah.
remember if the PRB was in on that one or not.
Yeah, but if
too.
you remove the overlay district,
Right.
do you then need to
Yeah.
expand this district?
I don't, there's a part of me that would say yes, and the other part of me that just in general wants to allow more flexibility and more types of housing walkable to town.
Yep.
It kind of overrules the part of me that likes
That's the,
design, high design or whatever.
Yep.
Other,
Maybe encourage everyone to read through the overlay ordinance to see exactly what's in there, because that might better inform
we-
how you feel
Right.
about the size. of
There's
it.
also just generally I think a big lift to impose new restrictions on properties that
right.
haven't
I
had
have an
them
alternative
historically.
you could consider. I mean, part of the reason we did this is because you had all these layers. And so for the portions that are, I don't love this, Kyle will probably give me a dirty look, but I don't have to do it
I
anymore.
don't like this either. I know
You
you're asking
could take, the area that's in design review, you could just have design review. And the areas that are in the overlay outside, sorry Kyle, you could at least temporarily keep an overlay, which you could look at modifying. But if you're concerned about eliminating those design standards, you could keep that as a step B.
We could change the name to the Freeport Design Standards masking layer. Just remove the,
I don't know, I'm wondering what you guys think, I mean, it sounds like such a big lift, and the 2 years, I'm thinking, well, what happens if we just plowed forward, put this forward, left the design overlay district, and then as a project, got rid of the design and modified this and modified the
I mean,
zoning as a separate
there's an argument
project?
that approach doesn't make anything worse at any point. Like,
Right.
we're still taking the core design review district that has been there in conjunction with the Freeport overlay district
And we're
for
making it
20
better.
years.
This is a better document
improving
than we
it.
have.
You are adding more standards, like screening and some of the site stuff.
So we just say, yeah, there's some, and then we make it an explicit goal at some point in the next year to keep moving.
Get rid of it. Get rid of it and add this stuff back into
But
here or wherever else
so
it goes.
I think that's a reasonable approach overall. I would say the caveat to that is that it's still probably worth taking a pass at least through the building design section. And if there's anything in there that should go into the new design district, this would be the time to do it.
Yep.
If there's stuff that's in there that should
That's
go into the
really smart.
zoning districts, then fine, we can do that anytime. We're not gonna try to do it all on the same night, right? Like, update all the zoning ordinances and all the, that would be.
Yeah, I mean, there's some stuff in the overlay that requires, that's more specific than what we have in design review right now, right? I mean, requiring a roof pitch,
Yep.
6 and 12 to 12 and 12, where in design review, we're saying you can have flat roofs. So that garage setback, there are a couple of things in here that are kind of very specific standards that are more strict than.
Yeah, so
Design review.
we would be creating conflict if you keep the overlap.
Okay, fair enough.
But I mean, there's conflict
Yeah.
now because.
Yeah.
We could probably solve that by saying, like, by giving priority with a sentence, right, in the design review district, right? Just says, like, this should supersede where this and.
Where conflict,
And the overlay
yeah.
district are in conflict, this one wins. I mean, not ideal.
Yeah, I like Kyle's idea
You gotta read it.
Look, I think everyone
We
needs
better
to look at it and see what's there and what you really feel
Yep, okay,
strongly about.
yeah.
We better read it.
I like that approach, I just wonder if we'll be ready to repeal the village overlay district at the same time we're ready to adopt the new design district. But that, we don't have to decide that right now, I think we can.
Can we at least
I do think it could be it's
discuss
like
it
a.
in next meeting?
Yeah.
You know, yeah.
I think it'd be good homework assignment for June's meeting.
Clear homework assignment.
Yep. Before we move on, I think technically sort of, we're still talking about the map. I have two, so one, there is a part of that map change that will, on the north part of Main Street where I live, that will, by some reading, benefit me. And I intentionally stayed quiet when you guys talked about that, because I don't want to be seen as swaying that, but I do want to call that out. That if the boundary shrinks a little bit and hugs the
Back half of your
lot line.
lot.
Yep, that's great. But I just want to say for the record, I didn't weigh in on that, and that was not my idea. But then as a question, I think in general, it's okay, like, this doesn't accurately show all of the lot lines. And I think in general, it's okay if the district doesn't perfectly align with lot lines everywhere, right? Like, that's not going to cause some.
That's why we came to you guys. Like, in the ideal world, it would, but it didn't, we questioned if that was the appropriate
Yeah.
solution in some places.
So like,
Right, it can. It's, yeah, like the problem areas were really, like, down here, like this lot on Summer. They came forward to have a shed, I think. And it was really hard to tell,
right.
using this map with the way it is, whether it was in or out of design review.
So what is that one house there on Summer Street that's labeled as a B?
Here?
Yeah, what is that?
Oh, is that the one Mark Dorsey built stuff behind? The Cape, that's sideways, or no, is there another one
I
there?
don't know, those, I thought that was the house that was moved up from Flying Point Road.
Oh, wait, no, this, right here,
Yeah,
that's where he put a couple like duplexes and attached them to the old structure that was there. It wouldn't surprise me, actually, if that's one that we now need to update, because there's been houses put there.
yeah, because one of those, that first or second house on Summer Street was hauled up from Flying Point Road.
Yeah, that's one that had to go through design review and overlay.
When they moved it there,
No, when that project was completed.
it's not an old house. It's an old house, it's just not from there. I think that was Mayberry's house they hauled up there. That was Leon Mayberry's house. So they jacked it up there and hauled it up there and put it up.
I think in general, like if the lot, as long as
Yeah.
it's close and everybody's okay with that seems fine. I just,
Yep.
okay.
When would that have been?
All right. Item number 4
70s?
is the election of officers for the position of chairperson and vice chairperson. How does everybody feel about this one? We can punt it if it's late.
I'd like to nominate you.
Appreciate that.
Are you willing to do it again?
I am.
Oh, well then,
That'd be good.
that'd be good.
One final time, most likely.
I know that you're near the end.
Famous last words.
Yep.
And the motion should be 2 more times.
Yeah, right.
I would,
I
don't
mean,
know if I
because
could.
if you're willing to do it, I think we all like your leadership.
Yep.
Appreciate that very
We
much.
do.
I would do it, yes, I will do it for one. I think my term is up in March, so it's not even a year. But
Do we have a
Okay.
motion?
yeah, somebody
Yes,
has to make a motion. I don't think it can be.
Well, we need vice chair too.
I am the vice chair, and I would do it if anybody else wants to do it, they can do it.
It's not a big lift.
Well, it's not a big lift, no. So,
I nominate that Sam be nominated as chair and that Slate is that Mitch be vice chair.
Second?
Second?
Everybody seconded that. All in favor?
good. That's done. Cross it off the list.
Cross off the list. All right, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Like I said,
No, thank you, really,
one
you do
more,
it.
one more
Doing a
time.
great job.
I'm assuming, there's nobody on Zoom, right? No. And there's nobody in the room, so we can breeze through item 5. Item 6
I
is
move we adjourn.
Second.
Oh.
It's all good.
favor. All right. Thanks,
Very
everyone.
productive meeting.
Everyone?
I hope it's not raining.
I just find municipal law really interesting. I was kind of excited.